Okay, good. Still working. Hello, everybody. Welcome, and thank you for the bats, as usual. Hope everyone is doing good, and, ow. Thanks. Ow. I hope we're all doing good today. Let me turn the music down slightly, and thank you for the bonus ducks. Do appreciate it. Pardon me. So the new video that I just published a couple of hours ago, I'm glad it's done. It was taking me a while, but it's out, it's finished, and I'll be starting work on the next one, Hootus, in the next couple of weeks. But the extras video is done. Glad people have been enjoying it. And even if it is pretty simple, you know, comparatively speaking to the 2.5 hour long monstrosity that the last video was, it was quite nice. I think it came out pretty good. And I have been and to answer your question earlier, I became a VTuber basically last summer. I just decided to try out streaming with a model when I got this commissioned from Voxit about a year ago. And it just kind of stuck, and it's been this way ever since. I can't stop. So, but people have been enjoying it, and the new redeems have been fun to use, and yeah, it was neat. It's been until Ed. So did Ed until his powers broke it. Yeah. Yeah, Ed was also messing around with having models as well, and he was working on a new one, but apparently the new one is still broken, and he hasn't had a chance to get to fixing it yet. But so hopefully that goes well. Unofficial, potentially lonely raid from Tear of Grace. Well, hope Brett's been doing well. Ed is an enigma beyond comprehension. He is indeed. Right, anyway, so Mediashare is a thing. I should probably turn the viewer requests on now, shouldn't I? So, for those who are not aware of how Mediashare works, I'll link the, or Lydia can link the thing for me, thank you. And pin it, thank you very much. So the way it works is, this is basically just how we keep this is basically one of the ways we help keep the channel running, is, when you make a donation to the channel, using that link right there, you can then now that I've turned the queue on, you can also, there should be a section where you can link a YouTube video for a certain amount of time depending on how much you donate. Its conversion rate is 10 cents per second, and well, best I can tell, I don't think I've set an upper limit, so feel free. Whoa, hold up.
You know.
Okay. Thank you very much. I need to keep this paused though, because we usually try to get about a 15-20 minute queue going before we get started. I have played Deep Rock Galactic a bit, not a whole lot, but a bit, and it is quite fun. I need to get into that more. I'm gonna change up the music here. Let's see.
Thanks, Pally.
Oh, I thought there was a message attached to that one. Who's Ed? Will you ever do a face reveal if you're enjoying the stream? Well, the stream just started, but I'm sure we'll enjoy this one.
Pally.
Ow. Ed is a good friend of mine. Edit Ed, or Edit Edward, or Edit Ed, edited. Who has been a buddy of mine for a couple of years now, back when I was still doing XCOM content.
Discombobulate.
Thank you. And I say regularly, he's not been able to regularly stream as much as he wants to because his work has kind of been kicking his ass in a very unfair way, so he's thankfully leaving that job and hopefully finding something better. But yeah, Ed's a good friend of mine, and he's been a buddy for a couple of years. Right, music. Whilst we wait for the queue to get going. Let's see. Little more energetic than I would have picked, than I was looking for, but it works. Also, yes, Ed has this inexplicable power to basically break anything he touches, programming-wise. Like, regardless, the dude is just a walking glitch, And regardless
Thanks,
of what
Pally.
he is involved with, it will break at some point in some way, minor or major. There is
Thanks,
a
Pally.
guarantee that something will break
Randomize, they said.
if Ed is involved in some way, and no one knows why. Somehow Ed broke a visual novel, and it's not anything he does, it just happens. Shit just glitches out and breaks whenever he's involved for some reason. It's
Thanks, Pally.
it's to the point where the XCOM 2 modding community is aware of it, and he has a reputation amongst the XCOM 2 modding community. Many big mod creators in that scene are basically aware of him and know that things just break. So in a way, if Ed can get a mod to work just fine, it's almost like it's basically a stress test. Can Ed get the game? Can Ed get the mod to run just fine? If so, great. It's perfect. Ship it.
Thanks, Pally.
All right, we're up to 5 minutes now. We'll get to about 15-20 minutes and then we'll get started. He's a walking but accidental. He's an accidental walking cognito hazard. Pretty much.
Thanks, Pally.
Yeah, it is basically like testing your computer's graphics cards with Crysis when that was the bench line. If you could run Crysis at a decent FPS, you were good. That PC was gonna last you a while. Not so much anymore, but that was the case back in the day. Oh, and not really. I'm not really planning to do a face reveal. Just because I like being this more, so. And this is just more fun, so. I saw it happen in one of your below zero videos. That's enough proof that he's cursed for me. Is this hell or is this just fantasy? Caught in a landslide, no escape from reality. But unfortunately, this is neither here nor there. This is just chaos. So, welcome to Entropy. That actually almost rhymed by complete and
Thanks,
total
Pally.
accident. Oh, hang on a second. I forgot to close my Discord. Why didn't you mute? Because I'm dumb. I'm dumb, Jenny, that's why. And I forget to do shit all the time. But speaking of Jenny, we have one of those ourselves. I need to send you, but remember Charchu, he has the exact same thing happen whenever he, oh, that's a robo voice toggle. One moment. He breaks everything. Recently he broke 14 and it created an anomaly which I need to show you. Check Doiscord. Whew. Brain is deader than usual today. Doiscord. I don't know how the fuck my brain came up with that and my mouth said it, but there we go. The reference looks like max video length is 1 hour and 40. Okay, so roughly 1 hour and 40 is the so if someone wanted to like link the entire Dark Souls video for me to watch again, I guess we couldn't do that because that would be over the limit. But yes, otherwise, we've gotten very long videos before, so it's nothing new. Ah yes, Dwarfcord, my favorite Dwarfcore, my favorite dwarven social media platform. I haven't watched it yet, but you can be damn sure I will. Well, I hope you enjoyed Sonic Wind. Thank you very much. Still waiting to get a decent-sized queue going. We're up to 8 minutes now, so
Thanks,
we'll wait
Pally.
until we're up to 15, and then we can get going. Get checking. And for those asking how I'm doing today, I'm doing pretty good, honestly.
Thanks, Pally.
Just very tired. Very tired, but I'm glad the video's done, and I'm ready for my weekend, you know? After this stream, it's just, I'm doing nothing over Saturday and Sunday. For the rest of this night, and then over Saturday and Sunday. Aside from just hanging out with some friends. I'm just taking some time to do nothing for a bit.
Thanks, Pally.
Egg.
Indeed.
Thanks, Pally.
Oh, well, thank you, Mitch. All right, that'll about do it. So we'll let the music play out. Actually, it's hang on, let me fast forward it slightly. There we go. Let the music fade, and then we'll begin the festivities, as it were. All right. And need to make sure
Thanks,
the volume
Pally.
is loud enough.
Psycho frame. I didn't get it. I have the oldest psycho frame known to the Federation.
No, you don't. I leaked you the files day one, you fucking Lala killer.
Well, mine didn't have it.
You have Uno, you fucking dumbass.
I don't have it, you fucking idiot.
Yes, you
I
fucking
don't
do.
fucking have Uno,
Go to it in the mobile
motherfucker.
suit,
I don't
man,
have
and you can
two. I
install
don't
it
have
for free,
three.
you
I don't have
stupid
fucking
Betty.
four.
It's a
I don't
card
have
game.
six,
They don't even
8,
charge
Pally.
people for it.
9, 10,
know a goddamn
11
thing.
for fucking Uno.
Fucking Uno.
I don't fucking
It's
have
free.
Uno.
It's free, Amuro. Fuck.
God damn it, that video just keeps the fucking you have Uno video just keeps coming back in a multitude of different forms. I have a job again. It's just $12 hours, but it's income, or 12 per hour, but it's income rather. Well, congratulations, Hazardine.
But there's just one thing I gotta do real quick.
Uh-huh.
Much obliged, partner.
There you are, mister. Just what do you think you're
Hello,
doing?
Dad. It's me, Butters.
I know that. What do you...
This is for all the times I got grounded.
Oh!
Ow!
Oh!
Ah, I could almost feel his balls on my fist. How'd you like that,
Thanks,
Dad?
Pally.
Butters, why? Oh, my God. That was incredible. Butters, get back to the act.
All right. Well then. Also, autoplay. Are you gonna behave yourself this time? And Parago, thank you for the 61-month resub. Appreciate it. Thank you for sticking around that long. Yeah. Dude got punched in the nuts. I don't know the context, but All right. And yes, seems autoplay is behaving itself. So, Pootus.
Hello, bitch.
Hi.
You should be admiring my shoes. They're good?
It happened last night around 3 in the morning. I woke up and I just couldn't move my perfect body.
Welcome to paraplegia, stupid.
Who are you?
Thanks, pal. I'm your worst nightmare, bitch.
Oh, you smell like cigarettes.
No, I don't.
Are you
What?
straight?
I'm worse. I'd rather stick my dick in a dying dog than a living human, and I have.
You got the wrong number.
The-
Now I'm gonna have to send my queers over to your house and kill you, sir. I did not assume your gender. It was a mere guess.
I hear you suffer from OCD.
Yeah, what's the big whoop?
Well, that means I can scare you with this.
That is the least scary thing I've ever seen.
Ah-ha.
Stop! I'll make better content! He's a jerk. And his horns are asymmetrical.
Our special guest. I can't do the voice anymore. I'm on a date right now, and I'm nervous as shit.
Well, I'm nervous too.
Why the fuck are you nervous? You're the hot one.
I know.
You want some Pepto-Bismol?
Yeah, Daddy.
Why are we screaming?
We're clowns.
Ooh.
Ah.
I've been so nervous for this date. These puppets have been coaching me on how to do it for days.
Don't talk about yourself. Make sure the conversation's about her.
So how long have you been?
Don't ask me questions.
Oh.
This isn't about me.
Okay.
So what's your social security number?
Ask her about her talents.
So what the fuck are you good at?
I'm gonna rule this goddamn planet.
From what that does seem very in character for Blitz. I've never watched Hell of a Boss. Well, actually no, I've watched one episode. It's one of those shows that I've just never really gotten around to watching. But that does all sound very in character from what little I know. And yeah. I believe that is the actual voice actor as well. Like the same dude. But yeah. Very fun. What's up next? Discombobulate. Yep, knew it.
We ain't done yet.
This mustn't register on an emotional level.
By the way, to preface this whole sequence, this mustn't register on an emotional level. Just watch.
First, discombobulate. Dazed, discombobulate.
Oh wait, never mind.
Target. Discombobulate. Darkest blind jab. Discombobulate. He'll attempt wild haymaker. Discombobulate. In summary, discombobulate.
Okay, I forgot that was the version that existed. Ow. Well, now I've been discombobulated. Ow. My face. Next up, I regret my choices. I know that feeling. When you spam one move in the fighting game. Yep. Now, autoplay? There we go. Okay.
Way to go, slugger!
Oh.
Part 2.
Oh, also. Yeah. Uh-huh. I believe those were void chelicerates. Two of them. Very fun. Death approaches. Yeah, basically. Next up.
There needs to be a bad romance movie about someone falling in love with a Tumba Mutual.
Oh dear.
It's called The Feeling is Mutual. Solo Butch out here being funnier than me on my own post. I think everyone who enjoyed this post back in 2021 should know that I am now dating the person that inspired it. The feeling was mutual. I have 3 moods. Skips every song on my iPod, lets the music play without interruption, and plays the same song on repeat for days.
Mm-hmm.
It's an iPod. Been on Tumblr so long, my text post is outdated. Fucking.
Ow. The fact that, unironically, people don't know what an iPod is makes me just feel like I'm turning to dust.
Thanks,
Ow.
Pally.
Fuck, I'm old. Oh dear. Uh-huh.
Why is he holding a hammer?
Thanks, Pally.
Uh-huh.
What the? Oh no! 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 No!
Thanks, Pally.
Holy shit. The fact that Ed and I didn't have something like that happen in our run amazes me. But then again, we didn't have randomized bosses. We had multiplied bosses in some cases. I didn't know Margette was that big of an absolute unit. Holy shit. Well, welcome, Cyanide. Hope you enjoyed the video. That was interesting. Yep.
So, where is the police girl?
Oh, you know, she's downstairs.
Isn't that the cargo hold?
I have a fear of flying coffins in tight places!
Wait for it.
Jesus wants a hug.
There it is. Goddamn Hellsinger Bridge. I need to go back and watch that at some point. Second phase Fire Giant replacing Radigan, and first phase Fire Giant replacing the Elden Beast. That is fantastic.
Thanks, Pally.
Oh, well.
Serve the Lord with fear and rejoice with trembling. You got me a present? Kiss the sun lest he be angry, and ye perish from the way when his wrath is kindled but a little.
Fucking love this whole series.
Right this way, Gridby. That's right in front of everyone else. You're 18, you're used to it. We're going to look at art and paintings, which I believe are also art. I don't know.
Thanks, Pally.
Ah, damn it, you missed. Damn it, cut off the best line. Yeah, Alexander Anderson is fucking fantastic. And, also seems we're doing a la carte posting today. I guess so. Thanks, does video game music count as copyrighted music? If it's just the game music by itself, best to err on the side of caution, you know?
You think the wolf is causing the accidents?
I love her voice for some reason.
Yeah, it's great.
Oh dear. Wow. This was from years ago. Enjoy.
Not a doubt in my mind. Everything was A-okay till it showed up.
Still it showed up and started blowing up buildings left and right.
Something's protecting it. Something.
Thanks, Pally.
He's doing it on purpose.
Why do you say that?
Look, here's a letter from it. He says he's gonna take us down. Mark my woof.
So I raised my rifle.
I'm just gonna let this play.
Shot oh boy. So I fired again, and I missed, and then I missed again,
and then I fired again, and then I missed, and then I fired, and then I fired, and I missed. I missed both times, and then I fired, and I missed. This went on for several hours, and then I fired, and then I missed.
And then I was out of bullets, and then I got sad.
Yeah.
I had a popsicle, and then I passed out in the snow.
And then I woke up, and then I reloaded, and then I fired, and then I missed.
I missed again. I fired. I hit something, but it wasn't what I was going for. So I guess I missed. I passed out again.
Had another popsicle.
I had a dream that I was firing at something. I missed.
I keep asking her if she manages to stay warm all day, but she don't tell me.
Thanks, Pally.
Secret weapon. Yeah,
I have no idea what the fuck this guy's saying.
No, I've lost it. Alright, so she could pick a snowball fight with him. I threw up a snowball at him. I missed. I packed another snowball into my gun. That's my secret weapon. I missed.
Yeah, she's really something. I threw a snowball at her. I missed. I passed out. I woke up with a popsicle stick in my mouth.
Can you tell me more about the accidents that have been happening around here?
But I can sass him.
Yeah. Don't piss me off, woman. I'll take a swing at you. I'll miss, though. I guarantee it. And I'll take another swing, and I'll miss. I might have myself a popsicle.
What you care for a popsicle? Just don't bring it into the sauna.
Fucking that. Oh, God damn it! That whole moment is fucking fantastic. I fired again, and I missed. I fired, and I missed. Yep, that's where that comes from. Wow, this is an old meme.
Thanks, Pally.
This is an ancient one. I would not be surprised if somebody actually modded that whole thing into the game itself. I would not be surprised. Like they modded it over one of the games, like one of the in-game emotes. Don't post the
Thanks,
ancient
Pally.
magic at me. I was there when it was posted first. I love the increasing levels of fear from the bartender. Oh dear.
When my roommate comes into
Ow.
the room looking for his car keys, I don't say it yet. And when he gets me off the couch to check underneath the couch cushions, I don't say it yet. No. And then when he says out loud, I wonder where my car keys are, I still don't say it. But then he asks me, do you know where my car keys are? I look at him in his face and I say, have you checked your butthole? I have not seen your keys, but since you're asking me, you better check out that butthole. Of course I'm not serious, I don't think it's up inside your big brown business. But a funny thing to say to someone who's lost their shit and is stressed out visibly, when I see the best man start to sweat. I don't say it yet. When I see that little ring bearer getting yelled at by his mum, oh, I still don't say it. When I see the groom asking the vicar if they can wait just another 15 minutes, I do not say it.
Thanks, Pally.
And when the father of the bride starts organising an ad hoc emu bob of the courtyard area, I want to, but I do not say it. It's the 11th hour with 300 congregants under God's roof. The vicar approaches the mic and suddenly all of the chatter goes mute. He says that they've misplaced the rings. Could anyone possibly know where they are? I know it's my time and all heads turn as I stand and say, Vicar, have you checked your butthole? I have not seen your ring, but have you checked your ring? My ring, I mean butthole. Love is patient, love is kind, but if you ask me where you can find literally anything you've lost before, I'm gonna suggest that it's up your
What do you expect me to say?
I lost my loan.
Y'all are watching the same thing I am. Ow.
Where is your class? I just lost my grandma. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Are you capable of not saying she's up my asshole? Of course.
Thanks,
my
Pally.
condolences. I'm not looking for a silly joke right now. Yeah. What are you looking for? Honestly, just like a shoulder to cry. Have you checked your butthole? Baby, you found your dead grandma up there too. I fucking got you. Family hate me. This might be the reason that I've got no close friends.
Maybe.
Thanks, Pally.
Holy shit. Like, the dude makes legitimately catchy music and really good beats. And then just that. But that's why I love it. It's fucking great. It's hilarious. Even though I never know what the fuck to say about it. Heavy is dead, but every word is replaced with its first occurrence. Oh dear.
It is good day to be not dead. Pow! You are dead. I'm dead.
The heavy
is dead. Yes, I'm dead.
Why? The heavy
dead. I don't know. I think it was. You are dead. Okay.
What's up, you wankers? Who's suffering? Ah, what the hell
Thanks,
just happened?
Pally.
The heavy
is dead.
The heavy
is dead.
Correct. So, did you see that murderer?
No, sorry, mate.
We'll find him. We'll capture him. And no one will ever die again. Ah, that's nice. Proud of
We...
The heavy
is dead.
We know who killed him. We don't know. We'll find close. What's that? A weapon? That's big. Why? The heavy
is dead.
The heavy
is dead. Yes.
He died. In my medical opinion, that's heavy
is dead.
Stop! What's happened? In my professional opinion, that heavy killed.
Oh God, where's
Stop.
the
I don't think
it's anything to worry about. Well,
Oh, come on.
Look at this. Freaking heavy.
dead.
What do you think of that?
Yes, yes.
Scout,
Yeah.
you're at home. Oh, come on.
Freaking unbelievable.
Okay.
Let's get back to that point.
I think
Heavy
he's dead.
The heavy
He's dead.
Scout
I
will
you.
Way to go, slugger.
heavy.
It was
Me.
Oh, yes.
He like this. That's a joke, lads.
It was.
Thanks, Pally.
How did you know?
I did it.
That's not a joke.
I'm dead.
That's
It was
me. You monster. But why? Because you're fat, boy. And another thing, because you're ugly.
Engineer.
You are.
Engineer.
You are so.
He's not funny. Engineer.
You are just heavy.
You are dead.
You pow.
You are dead. No big surprise.
Well, that's not idiotic. Off to hang myself. Hot and left.
I'm alive. He's nice. Yes, this is stupid.
The fact that someone actually took the time to go back and like recount every single time they said literally every word, I can only admire that. I can only admire that dedication, honestly. Even if my brain refuses to comprehend what the fuck just happened. I fucking love this seal. TF2 update in a nutshell.
Thanks, Pally.
Fibs. I can't tell if the poor thing is genuinely sick or if it's just
Wow!
Strap in chuckle fucks.
Much obliged, partner.
Guy, thank you for the brand new tier 1 sub. Appreciate it. Let me check the length of that video. Holy fuck, Bacon Lords! Wait, no, wrong one. Hang on, I clicked the wrong thing. Let me just check the length of that. Ow. That's an hour long. I sound traumatized because Bacon Lords just sent in $350 worth of a video. Oh boy! We're gonna be here a while. Holy fuck, Bacon Lords! Well, we may as well get going, or we're gonna be here literally all day.
Don't tell you Bob Mock said.
Making my humidifier and dehumidifier participate in a cruel and pointless war.
The title cloudy with a chance of meatball acronyms in an unusually pronounceable way. Qualcomm. It's not even a stretch. You could just say it like a normal word. You don't usually get that with titles that long. Why didn't Flynn name the machine that? That would have been clever.
Hey Frank, what's your special attack and what does it do? My special attack, Wormageddon, does something to do with worms.
I bet it's an apocalyptic rain of worms.
God couldn't strike me down even if they tried. I've lived through my worst and I'm still here. In fact, I'm pretty sure God did try. I don't know when, but they did. That's how living out of spite works, folks.
Hi, Blue Magoo. How are you doing?
You renowned JoJo villain Dio Brando?
Oh, what funky
Probably.
bad choices will I make today? Oh, nobody knows. Look out, world. Jane's coming.
So Elon Musk decided to ruin Twitter. Guys, you know what this means? The Twitter users are migrating to Tumblr, dear God.
I mean, that's not inaccurate.
It was because of the stinky line picture, wasn't it? We did it, Andy. We destroyed Twitter.
What?
Weakness. A black cat rusting, tote coating a lighter brown shade in sunlight.
Just like Coca-Cola.
The funniest rich kid court defense is definitely, Yana, my client is a spoiled brat who can't function in the real world, so how can he possibly comprehend the consequences of crime? And it works.
Fuck.
Pretty sure Velma tried to do that and flopped the execution horribly. Men who have made having a big epic beard their whole personality are so fascinating. Same with the one who waxed their mustaches into that pointy handlebar style, so they look like a whimsical 1850s candy store owner. What's going
Also,
on?
yeah,
with
I'm
you,
hearing
bro?
notifications.
Hey,
Did I?
Rondo, don't ask about my business.
Probably a bad RPG idea. Simplify the alignment system by having everything be either red or blue.
My alignment is true purple.
Classic Tumblr response. Damn, I'm curious to see if you put random Discord notification sounds in a video, just to see if people will fall for it.
Sounds evil. I like it.
Thanks, Pally.
I'm drunk. I don't have to anymore. I'm home now.
Fucking goddamn it.
I was aware of that after dropping you off at home.
This is too funny to me.
One time I dreamt I went into a public bathroom and the person in the stall next to me stated my full name and address and started retelling my entire life story as I fearfully tried to shit faster.
Good God. Sounds like a shitty way to get doxxed.
We are a society need to put more focus on robotic love interests who are quite literally just giant fucking computers. This girl is a big blocky machine. Takes up a whole room.
So the
Not
femputer.
a single limb in sight. Everything she says is barely comprehensible because her voice sounds so weird. Yes, it does make her 50 times sexier. Who is Gladys?
Not a chance in hell, pretty boy.
God damn it. Yep. In any case, thank you for that one, Mitch. That was funny. Next up, so no one oh dear. Well, it ended this way. Very good. Ow. "15 worst, weakest mobile suit weapons."
Once an army gets the technology to develop an 18-meter tall mech, you would expect that they also have the technology to put some killer weapons on it. And while for the most part this was true, we've also seen mobile suits with some really awful
I like that
weapons. In more ways than one.
Way to go, Slugger!
So today, I want to
What
present you
actually
with
happens
5
when
of
you
the
nuke the
worst
moon?
weapons around,
Fucking hell.
ranging from simply weak weapons to weapons that straight up killed their pilot. And let's start with a series where super powerful and fantastical weapons were the norm. G Gundam. Mobile suits can go Super Saiyan, melee attacks can easily shred an enemy Gundam, there's Dragon Ball Z-esque energy blasts, and even just the pilots can kick away apartment buildings all by themselves.
You know.
And amongst those legends, we have Neo Holland's Nether Gundam, also known as the Hurricane Gundam in the English dub. Piloted by Rutger Verhoeven, this Gundam had one main goal: make it to the finals. And it managed to do exactly that, thanks to a loophole. To make it to the finals, you just have to not lose. And if nobody can find you, for example, by pretending to be a normal windmill, nobody can fight you, and therefore you can never lose. Once in the finals then, Rutger could no longer rely on his hiding skills, and he had to rely on the powerful arsenal built into the mobile windmill. And while it came outfitted with several mega particle cannons, its ultimate weapon was the fearsome Nether Typhoon. And to unleash this harbinger of destruction, the Nether Gundam would spin its blades, creating an unstoppable twister.
I'll show you. Take this.
Early dubbing.
Bruh. Maybe if it blows hard enough, it can give the enemy mobile suit a cold.
Well then, unfortunate. It's like an Elden Ring boss, except low budget. Yeah, the queue's still open, Hellboy, although it is up to an hour and 40 because Bacon Lord sent in an hour-long video. So, yeah.
Thanks, Pally.
Space is deadly.
We got the next challenge, lads. It does work well as a brazier.
It does. That's what they were best at, because they spent far more time with braziers than they did making cars.
This is fine, thanks.
Thanks, Pally.
I said that out loud, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
Holy moly! What manner of terrible thing has happened under my bonnet?
What manner of terrible thing?
Is what's happened here.
Oh, my head's come off. Has it? Well, a man threw a knife at me, but I caught it in my teeth. Literally, my head came off. Oh, but I'm okay. Oh, yeah.
In the cock! Ha! Right in the nad!
Always give way to the car from the right.
Because this is a hard job, and I'm not just saying this to win favour with lorry drivers. It's a hard job. Change gear, change gear, change gear, check your mirrors, murder a prostitute, change gear, murder.
Oh, hold on.
That's a lot of effort in a day.
Yes, we
Hold on.
We are doomed.
We are doomed.
Absolutely.
Is it...
In the plums. Absolutely.
Hang on.
Oh, shit.
No, you utter pillock. No, let me do it.
The new VW Scirocco diesel.
Armed with this new information,
I was
about
waiting
women,
for it.
James decided to get some practice. While we talked to the girls.
I've got a motorbike.
Ow.
Yeah. You seen him? He's rubbish. I'm much better. I did one yesterday at Glastonbury, and it was brilliant.
And
Perfect face.
That's him being
That's him. It does work really
I did a
well.
huge
It
one.
does work really. He just can't do it. He can't do it, and he's got no penis because it came off once. Now, I will be honest. None of the train companies we contacted would play ball, so I'm using the coach instead. Coach is good. Coach is better than a train. Fewer diseases on a coach. Gandhi would approve of what I'm doing now.
This is a noble act. Oh.
That sounds fine.
Nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. Beautiful British engineering. So when you do it back up again,
yes,
there's no evidence.
No, none. It's the perfect crime.
Hey, HIV what? You got your comfort inn, you got your Best Western, you got your Red Lobster where you eat. Everybody's very fat, everybody's very stupid, and everybody's very rude.
Yeah, it's like modern day.
Is this a marrow?
Fuck. It's the word fuck. Name fuck.
This is... Crikey, is it? Right, well, I thought it was a marrow.
Harry is there for us. Harry, what's going on?
Welcome here to beautiful Braithwaite. You can see the sun exploding on a kaleidoscope of colour. And I have to say, there's been a real area of controversy here because over the last few days, my God!
Holy shit. Well, then. I've never actually watched Top Gear, but getting to see all the highlight stuff that people send in is always fun. Well, thank you for that. Moving on.
See the grass? Go touch it!
Bitch, we're in hell. There is no grass.
True. Very true. That's all I have to say. I can't think of anything more clever because I am very tired.
The spiritual successor of Paper Mario.
Pardon me.
Littlons.
Ah, here we
If
go.
you want to be really crazy, you can try using any of the Genoase's original weaponry. It uses a beam spray gun that is about as effective as a super soaker on a hot summer day. And then if this bucket of bolts somehow manages to get close to the enemy, it has the fearsome heat stick.
Heat stick? Ow.
And to make matters even
Is that a fucking
worse for the
shovel?
Genoese, it was based on the Desperado, which has a heat shovel and a heat pickaxe. Both of which would have been less useless than a damn stick. It's a good thing that the shield is vaguely shaped like a coffin. Marginally more effective then was the Gundam Hammer, a weapon that is often described as a flail, but is actually a mobile suit-sized version of the Chinese Meteor Hammer. And from what I've been able to find, this weapon
Hey
has
there,
its origins in
Seth.
hunting.
I thought you
it's
had died
really
as I
difficult to
never
use,
saw you in my
and
subfeed
it's
anymore.
supposedly
Frown.
not
I've been
certain
around.
what's
I've been
used in
streaming and I
actual
posted that Dark
historical
Souls video a couple of
combat.
months ago.
And yet, someone thought that it was the perfect fit for an 18-meter tall, highly advanced mech that became famous for being the first mobile suit to use beam weaponry in real combat. If you're somehow in a situation where your best or your only option is to use the Gundam Hammer, you're probably either already screwed, or you would have been better off with a different weapon that wouldn't have put you in that situation in the first place. But the Federation really wanted to make this thing work. It even saw some limited production,
Very limited, I assume.
with expected results.
Oof.
And it also got upgraded into the Hyper Hammer, which had a slightly different shape and thrusters to give its business end more momentum.
Just stick
and
thrusters on the end of
therefore
it.
More bonking power. This weapon was never seen again in the Universal Century. And talking about mobile suits that could use beam weapons, the Dome.
The what?
Kinda. Faced with the Federation's beam-wielding machines, Xeon realized that they needed to step up their game when it came to miniaturized beam technology. And so the Dome became
Dome,
one of
okay.
Xeon's first machines that was made with beam weaponry in mind. Unfortunately, it wasn't very successful. At least not in the way that the Xeon engineers had intended. Mounted on its chest was a scattering beam cannon that was only powerful enough to blind enemy pilots. and apparently this was because the cannon was actually meant as a socket where beam weapons could then plug into.
Oh.
But with Zeon's beam weapon plans hitting delay after delay, the socket idea was dropped and was instead replaced with an offensive weapon, albeit a very weak offensive
We've
weapon.
seen top. Time
But
for some
to give
bottom
credit
gear.
where credit is due, being able to blind and disorient enemies was actually very useful in its own way. And Dom pilots would soon also find yet another use for this cannon. In close-range combat, it was able to stop beam sabers and then creating an opening for a counterattack.
Oh, that's not bad.
While the scattering beam cannon might have been the weakest, kinda worst beam weapon in terms of raw power, it actually ended up being a very useful feature for the hulking Doms. And before we go on to the final entry of this list, I want to give an honorable mention to the Unicorn's beam rifle, the Beam Magnum. Now, hear me out.
It's just pocket sand, the
Beam
gun.
Magnum was an extremely powerful weapon. Terrifyingly powerful, actually, for a handheld weapon by a mobile suit. One shot required so much energy that it used up the entire E-Pack, and the resulting beam was therefore also powerful enough to one-shot a giant mobile armor.
Ah, I see. I have no context for any of this, but it sounds cool. Well, they dead. Oh, they actually are. Holy shit.
And it's exactly this power where the problem lies. In its path, the beam would emit stray particles that themselves were also still powerful enough to destroy mobile suits.
Oh.
Meaning that every shot had a very wide killing radius, making it a very precarious weapon on a massive battlefield where friend and foe alike were all over the place. And another side effect of this immense power was that only the Unicorn series of mobile suits could handle it. So for other mobile suits, each shot would literally cost you an arm and an E-Pack.
Ow.
And at that point, why not just change to a slightly less overpowered weapon? Banagher. But at least this weapon didn't kill its user. Enter the Gundam Unit 4 and its Mega Beam Launcher. Basically, Unit 4, alongside with its sister unit, Unit 5, were advanced versions of the RX-78-2. Their main bodies were almost the same, but the big difference lay in their main
That's
weapon.
a big minigun.
Unit 5 had a less powerful generator and cooling systems because it was meant to test out a new giant Gatling gun. Meanwhile, Unit 4 was designed to test out the Mega Beam Launcher.
So basically the Gundam version of the BFG.
All went wrong. Despite having a stronger generator, it still wasn't enough for this experimental weapon, and it required an external battery pack. A battery pack that unfortunately wasn't quite ready for the job. The Mega Beam Launcher would only be used one time, causing the battery pack to become unstable and explode, crippling the Gundam and killing its pilot. Although, in an alternate timeline, Unit 5 was able to rip off the battery pack before it exploded and save his doomed ally.
Good lord.
Lieutenant Luce, please respond! Lieutenant Luce! Luce!
And which version you end up with depends on how well you play the game that these two appeared in. But this unfortunately wouldn't be the only time an incident like this happened, because almost 6 years later, something eerily similar would happen to Karl Matsubara during the testing of the Bigwig, an energy-hungry long-range beam cannon that used the Hyzak as a base, a mobile suit that had an infamously weak tolerance to beam weaponry. So what could possibly go wrong? And for the full...
Well, goddamn. I've never watched anything Gundam related, I'll be honest. But That is pretty interesting stuff. And the fucking beam launcher, although I think my favorite one in that video was the one where essentially was the unicorn, whatever the fuck gun was. Just fuck everything in that direction and everything around me as well while I'm at it. Sounds like the kind of weapon XCOM would use, I'll be honest. What?
Bankan, oi!
I'm gonna turn this down slightly. What in the fuck? Holy shit.
貴様なぜカビが効かんキノコ獣人すでにそのカビに力はない
What is happening here?
Thanks, Pally.
That's just a Yakuza cutscene. That's just a fucking Yakuza cutscene. I do remember this. Fucking Godzilla flying with their nuclear breath. Don't remember this. I am so confused. Should I be watching? Okay, we're moving on from that then.
この犬は渡る君ではありません今証拠を見せます何をする渡る
But... Japan, what the fuck? I am weirdly entertained, but I'm also extremely confused. Right then, moving on. Thank you for that.
I'm going to bring the stream back to its Christian-friendly origins.
Good.
Here's a reading from Ezekiel. She lusted after their male consorts,
okay,
whose sexual organs were like those of donkeys, and whose ejaculation was like that of horses.
God, back to a family-friendly channel. Perfect.
I feel the flame of ambition burning when I pee.
Oh, okay. Moving on before I die. Love it. Very good. Rattle 'em, boys. Huh.
The soup is cold and the salad is hot.
Can't deny it was on beat. Are we gonna have to bring back an MGR counter? Because if so, we're up to 1.
Our last line of defense will be Link draws on an incredibly old meme, that of the famous adventurer goofing off and doing his own thing independent of an important story quest that must be fulfilled. It's a trope that is often played out with other open world games, such as Skyrim or The Witcher, but thanks to the arrival of the latest Legend of Zelda game, Tears of the Kingdom, and its April trailer announcing our last line of defense will be Link in a completely serious tone,
our last line of defense will be Link.
The sentiment that he's a bit of a wacky idiot in the player's hands is here in full force.
Bit.
Of course, it wasn't long before artists such as Arcade Cafe began parodying the sentence with gameplay footage of the ridiculous stuff Link gets up to, demonstrating an ineptitude to save the world. This taps into a whole area of the digital ecosystem wherein video game characters transform into something other than the magnificent hero they are presented as, thanks to the hands of players and artists. For example, instead of Link acting as the perfect hero he is described as thanks to all the trailers, story and reactions from NPCs in the games he lives in, he's actually a multitude of distinct personalities as he can be controlled in any way any person likes. A 2019 bachelor's thesis by Joel Vidqvist of the Tampere University of Applied Science titled Open World Game Design Case Study The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild digs into the theory behind these aspects of game design. He notes, one of the greatest challenges in developing a non-linear game is how to impose a dramatic plot on the player without stepping on the toes of basic open world values like freedom and agency. In this sense, our last line of defense will be Link demonstrates how video games allow the freedom to do whatever one likes, a vast difference from other mediums. Sure, Link can be described as a hero, but the games he stars in encourage fun, and sometimes fun means not just following a main quest and rescuing a princess, it means whacking a bowler or stopping time or just seeing how far you can throw something. In video games, the rules of time do not exist in the same manner in which they do in the real world, so it's easy to put any goal or adventure on hold whilst you go about finding cool new weapons to play with, thus ensuring Link is not technically perhaps the most reliable line of defense. Plus, to speak of just how much of an influence Breath of the Wild still has is incredibly easy. It led to the construction of millions upon millions of memes, same as the legacy of the many Zelda games spanning back to 1986. Consequently, it's highly likely Tears of the Kingdom, releasing on May 12th, will result in a similar amount of references, and as such, our last line of defense will be Link is surely the first of many millions to come. What meme would you guys like me to give a lesson in next? Let me know in the comments below.
And remember, like and subscribe!
Good face. Good face.
Or else.
Duly noted. I love watching all the fucking dumbass shit that people come up with for Tears of the Kingdom on Twitter, and like just seeing all the stupidest ways people have died in both those games.
Home defense.
Let me check, because if that's the one I'm thinking it is, then oh, it's not the one I'm thinking it is, but it's close if it uses the same audio. I'm thinking I may just turn the queue off now because I kind of want to end it on that. I'm going to do that. Queue, unfortunately, is off now, folks. I apologize, but we still have an hour and 30 left, so, you know, we're good.
Believe me, Chris, you don't want to mess with drugs. I tried them once, big mistake. Things got way too real. Holy crap, I am freaking out.
It's so fucking weird to like look back at like season 1 Family Guy animation. It's kind of strange. I don't know how I describe it, but yeah. With the attack jet. Uh-oh. Sir, turn around. Sir, turn around. Sir. How did that work? Does he take off? I have to imagine he doesn't actually take off. Or maybe he does. I don't know. Either way, how did that fucking work? Ross Scott had it right. Tactical combat is strange.
What the fuck is toilet paper?
It's Chinese. Good morning, Judge.
Toilet paper.
I still need to watch the Castlevania series. Because every fucking clip of it I see is amazing. Mm-hmm. Oh. I see. I have no context, but... Alright.
Hey, what you doing? Standing on the side of the road.
Fun. Oh my gosh. You're never gonna believe this. There is a guy standing on the side of the road who looks just like you. I'm about to hit him.
Seems accurate. That would probably that's about their relationship, yep. Mm-hmm. God damn it, Trevor. That's what happens. That's what happens when the 8 intelligence fighter tries to improvise.
All right. So South City is to the north, North City is to the west, and East City is also to the north. Where the f*** am I?
Fucking great. Team 4-star. Now I need to go back and watch the abridged series again. Fucking goddamn it! You just made me waste a day. Well, not really waste, but still.
May we meet again, traveler.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that Yu-Hung may not So, what should we give to Nippon when we...
What? Oh, this video is not available. What? This video is not available in my country. What? It's the Game Grumps animated Mark Zuckerberg. What the fuck? Hold on a sec. How is that not? Hold on a minute. Let me see if I can't fix this. Hold on. Is it actually fucking blocked for me? Hold on. Let me see if I can find the same video. I apologize. 1 minute. Let me just put some music on. So they posted a video and it missed. All right, let me see if I can find it. Is that it? Yeah, that's it.
Aaron.
No, nope, wrong one. Okay. Okay, is it gonna play? Yeah, it's playing just fine. The fuck are you? All right, 1 second. Let me just, this still working? Yes, good. Yeah, this video is not available in my country, my fucking ass. All right, hang on.
Hey, Aaron.
What?
Can I share something with you from earlier today?
What is it, Dan?
Well, I sent you a text early in the morning.
Yeah.
Because I have to go out of town. For
Not
one
California,
weekend
maybe.
This month. And so I was like...
Smart.
I won't give specific dates, but I was like, do you have any preference whether I go this weekend or the next weekend?
Mm-hmm.
Your response... at 9:30 in the morning. Motherfucking Jesse Eisenberg. Jesus Christ, fuck, dude. Motherfucking Facebook movie bullshit. Jesus, can you fucking believe this shit? No punctuation. Random capitalizations. So I respond, I have no idea what we're talking about right now. 45 minutes pass. I get a text from you. Goddamn creative Facebook and fucking lawyers and shit, right? Fucking Winklevoss twins, goddamn rowing the boat. Fuck yo shit, I can't even fucking believe this shit. Have you seen this shit? Fuck, I just watched this shit. Fuck Jesse Eisenberg, man. I respond, Aaron, you're scaring me. An hour passes. I respond, motherfucking Spider-Man, you put in the time. Fuck, put in the time. Motherfucking build shit with his bare hands. Fucking best friend shit, Jesse Eisenberg. I'm very tired. I'm just like, no problem, man. I'll do most of the talking at the Grump session today. Immediate response. I'm talking 5 seconds later. No, man, I'll just talk about the Facebook movie all day. Shit, man, you have to be so interested in the shit I have to say about the Facebook movie. Fuck, dude, I just watched it a year and a half ago. Fuck Jesse Eisenberg, man. He fucked over Spider-Man, crazy Winklevoss twins rowing. Trent Reznor did the soundtrack. Fuck this guy who invented Facebook. I don't like dying. I can't think of who the fuck invented Facebook. All I can think is the guy who played the guy who invented Facebook. Who the fuck invented Facebook? And then, in all capital letters, 2 hours later, Mark Zuckerberg.
Holy kids, this is why you get a decent hour, you get a decent night's sleep. Oh my fucking god. Anyway, moving on.
All this stuff.
Such a waste.
Do we have any heavy-duty spray adhesive?
Mom's gonna kill us.
Do we have any waterproof tape that instantly seals?
What a storm. If only we had a heavy-duty tape that was crystal clear and even held up underwater.
So this is it? Just the one sealant for window, door, and kitchen and bath?
Check the retaining wall, back deck, and vinyl siding. Got a lot of work to do.
You're not holding it by the legs, are you?
No, I'm not.
Just one drop.
Search for a really strong glue that's clear.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Clear glue.
That looks terrible.
That's a lot of construction adhesive.
There isn't just one for every project I have. It'd be nice, though.
Oh, you finally fixed the chair.
You know it.
Whoa!
Ooh.
I was thinking super glue brush.
I like the nozzle.
Brush.
Nozzle.
So
nozzle.
Brush.
Right, these should be good.
You never expect the gorilla jump scare.
Work. Henry?
You gorilla tape that? No, why?
Well.
That bumper's not going anywhere.
Oh.
We could just have more tape.
Also, Quiller, thank you for the 100 bits. Seth and have pneumonia helped me get a good lap in. Well, hope you feel better.
No.
Um.
No, please, no. Please, no.
Not again. Make me look like an idiot.
Oh, hey, Canthy. Hey, hope you're doing well. I actually did not see you there for a moment, but thank you for the 100 bits. Unfortunately, the queue is closed at the moment, but hope you're doing all right. Oh, dear.
Head cocked to the left. Partial deafness in ear. First point of attack. Discombobulate. Then paralyze vocal cords. Stop screaming. Now discombobulate. Got to be heavy drinker. Discombobulate. Liver. Then traumatize throat. Employ discombobulate. And body shot. Discombobulate. Now discombobulate. Left leg entirely.
Ooh.
Discombobulate.
Discombobulate.
Prognosis conscious in 96 months. Ears and left leg discombobulized. Full faculty recovery unlikely.
Good. Very good. Fucking discombobulate. And steal his hat too, because why not?
In the original book, they don't adopt him, but the mum gave birth to him. What? Mrs. Little didn't have a little come out. No fucking way. Mrs. Little did not give birth to the littlest little. Because if she gave birth to it, they would have killed it. And they would have probably done some ritualistic sacrifice to stop the fucking devil from coming. What the fuck? The book was written in 45. Oh, so the baby boomers. So after World War II happened, somebody went, oh, do you know what? It's great that everyone's having babies after World War II, but you know what I want to do? I want to fuck a mouse and have a baby mouse. Fucking boomers, dude. I'm waiting for Keris to confirm this. I feel like I'm having my chain yanked. It's true. My life has been destroyed from the inside out. Well, I'm not surprised. Keris has just confirmed that Mrs. Little did indeed pop out a mouse. And
what the fuck?
Wait. Apparently in the books, Stuart is a human, but just so happens to look like a mouse as a birth defect. No. Okay, the giving birth mouse thing, I can give you that. I can let you have that one, but I can't let them have Stuart Little was a human that just so happened to look exactly like a mouse. I'm sorry,
fuck?
I can't. I mean, World War II was an awful thing, but it wasn't fucking Chernobyl. There weren't any radioactive mice babies. Like, what the fuck was wrong with people in
For all we
1945?
know, anyway.
How is that a children's book? In fact, in Mrs. Doubtfire, they talk about Stuart Little all the time, don't they?
Do you know that book, Stuart Little?
Yeah, it's one of my favorites.
It's one of my favourite books. Yeah, why? Anyway, I am processing this really badly. I really have lost my flow. Apparently, as well, in the book, most of Stuart's adventures involve him nearly dying, which doesn't surprise me. Not just because it would make for exciting adventures, but because I'm pretty sure that if he was born as a mouse, the very first thing he did from his birth was nearly die. He probably had to fight death the second he was born so that he didn't fucking lose his life from some sort of genetic defect. So the very first adventure Stuart Little went on was being born and hoping that he could be hoping that the what's it called? What's the thing called? The breathing, the breathalyzer?
What are you talking about?
What's it called? The thing that gives you oxygen. What's it called? Ventilator. Thank you. So the first adventure Stuart went on where he nearly died involved him hoping that his ventilator didn't give in and that his fucking throat wasn't deformed enough where he couldn't breathe out of his stupid mouse snout, and that all of the noises he was hearing weren't being over-amplified by his giant, important to his body mouse ears so that his eardrums didn't fucking burst at every moment that he had. Stuart Little, I reckon, spent most of the first book in an iron lung, and the entire of the first book is just him dreaming that he's doing things. He must be dead or dying and imagining what's happening to him. It must be
Man
that.
is
It
still
can't be
going.
anything else. Okay, so we've just been informed that there's a bit in the book where
Oh dear.
where Stuart gets trapped in the blinds and nearly dies, but he can't get out of the blinds. So the cat, which I'm assuming is Snowbell, I don't know, the movie's version of Snowbell, the cat apparently talks to Mr. and Mrs. Little, like, you know, just as the cat does, you know, I'm not expecting anything else. So the cat tells the Littles that Stuart is not dead, but hiding in a mouse hole. So then, the Littles then go, oh fuck, our son's dead. Our stupid, deformed, genetic monster mouse son is dead. And then they lower the blinds out of mourning for their dead mouse son, and he falls out the blinds. You cannot make this shit up. You
What
can't.
the fuck?
In a throwaway paragraph, Stuart Little is trapped in the fridge and nearly suffocates in a throwaway paragraph. You know, not a big deal, not a big part of his adventurous life, not just one of the many things that a mouse boy has to live with. No, he nearly fucking dies and it's just thrown away. Stuart goes invisible? Well, and that's it, we're not getting any more explanation. He gets a model car and it turns him invisible.
Ha!
He can't. He can't. He can't turn the car off in his bedroom. So when he goes to sleep, he's invisible and the Littles can't see him. He has an interspecies fetish for a girl called Harriet. Not even something mouse related, not even something clever. Harriet,
My brain.
Stuart Little's crush. He writes her a letter, and he writes a letter to Harriet that says, the only drawback is that I look like a mouse, but I'm perfectly proportioned for one. He writes that to his crush called Harriet, who, by the way, is 6 feet taller than him.
Is Caddy, are you okay?
It gets worse. The
Oh my
book
God.
ends with him driving north and just leaving. Hopefully your kid will be so happy the book's finished that they don't realize it doesn't have an ending. I think we should have known where this was going when Keris told me that when Stuart's born, they censor anything related to mouse violence, including the song, the 3.
Yes, the song 3. Well, I am very fucking confused. And you know what? So is Caddy. So I can't say, ow. I can't say I'm surprised. Oh, god damn it, this video, I fucking love it.
Bonus ducks!
We are currently air-communicating into a journey. Copies en route. Current ship status is absolutely catastrophic. Captain, did we make it?
Well, I guess that's one way to do it. Poor Mark. The fucking ragdoll.
Alert. Colonist core temperature stabilizing. What?
I've yet to actually watch In Space with Markiplier, but I need to at some point. But that was the first thing of it I saw was that whole joke. Though I gotta say, the ragdoll cuts were fucking perfect.
Shadow, I'm like not friends with you anymore. I really don't like how you've been treating me.
No, you never were my friend. Why would I care about that? I wouldn't be friends with someone who's into crypto.
We went to Chuck E. Cheese. You gave me that little parachuting trooper dude made out of plastic, and he broke on the car ride out, and you were like, ah, them's the brakes, Val, and we both laughed. Ow, fuck!
Well, them's the breaks, pal. Them's the breaks.
Shadow, you're an asshole, man.
You are what you eat, Sonic.
What the hell, man? Oh my god! That was kind of sick.
Thanks. I worked hard on it.
This is the last time I fucking play around with mortals. You guys are all fucking mean.
So... so that was the real-time fan dub of Shadow the Hedgehog, made by the same people who did the real-time fan dub of Sonic Adventure 2 and Sonic 06. The same group that the I've come to make an announcement meme comes from. The lack of hesitation from Shadow in that part, like, holy fuck. You know, it's funny going back to watch their earlier fan dubs and comparing it to that one. They've all gotten so much better. Like, it was already funny, but they have legitimately gotten better and snappier with their responses. It's really impressive. Oh. Any case. If I remember correctly, Penny, the voice of Sonic in that scene, was genuinely thrown off by that line. Her and everybody else in that call was, yes.
If a team has the best quarterback in football, it wins. If a team has the best player in the NBA,
yeah,
it
this
wins.
is the hour-long
If a team has
one.
the best pitcher in baseball, as the Blue Jays have arguably had in Dave Steeb throughout much of the 80s, it's anyone's guess.
Give me a minute. I'm gonna get a drink. I will be right back. Oh boy. Oh boy. Ugh. Okay. Whew. Oh god, I gotta stretch. Hang on a sec. Oh, okay. Ow. Alrighty then. Here we go. Ow.
Individual baseball players are completely unable to assume superhero mode over the stretch of a 162-game schedule. Steve's consistent greatness throughout these years was completely lost in the soup. The Jays' win-loss record offers no direct evidence that he was ever here. But for an ace starter like Steve, this changes once baseball is bottled up into a 7-game playoff series.
Thank you, Zergling. Glad you enjoyed it.
He
Welcome
will start
to
up to 3 of them if necessary.
baseball, I
The man who wants to
think.
be in
Yeah,
command of
baseball.
everything, who wants to do it all himself, will finally experience the closest thing in baseball to it.
Oh,
Both
yes,
Steve and his
continuing
partner
the
at
Steve
stake, Royals
story.
Game 1 starter Charlie Leibrandt are arriving with some baggage. Leibrandt is looking to rebound from a devastating playoff loss the year prior.
Voice
And
toggle.
Steve is trying to engineer every last throw out of his tremendously overworked arm before it turns the rest of the way into oatmeal. Steve's story, and it's already one hell of a story, is unknown to an American viewing public puzzled by the sudden emergence of a Canadian baseball team. He's never taken center stage like this before. They don't really know Dave Stieb. They will.
Ooh.
In the top of the first of Game 1, Steve first encounters Lonnie Smith. His story is a story for another time, but it's so spectacular that it's a wonder no one's ever made a movie about him. Steve retires Smith and speedster Willie Wilson to face who he regards as his ultimate adversary, George Brett. Inarguably one of the greatest third basemen who's ever lived, and in 1985, he's the most dangerous hitter in the American
Ducks.
League. By the time both careers are done, they'll have faced each other nearly 100 times. Neither ever really truly
This
gets
is not the last one in the queue. We got like
in terms of OPS,
10 more
Brett
after
goes just
this,
a little bit better
but they're
against
shorter.
Steve than the average batter. The two have a lot of respect for one another, with Steve understanding that he can't beat the Royals without beating Brett. Every encounter is a brand new puzzle, he explains. You can't just throw him whatever worked last time. He's too smart. He also says something startlingly un-Steve, that sometimes the best thing to do is admit defeat and move on to the next guy. Brett, for his part, knows that Steve's mediocre one-loss record camouflages how dominant he actually is.
I'm going to tell you a little bit about the guy that's pitching against us tonight, Dave Stieb. His record 14-13 is very misleading.
The sports writers who give out awards, they care about wins and losses. Brett has a far more intelligent understanding of Steve's greatness, and he uses that understanding to smack a double off the center field wall. Steve escapes the first inning without taking damage, but Brett has sent a message early.
Damn.
It's also worth noting that in the first playoff appearance of his career, Steve, who's had the deck stacked against him all season, is seemingly dealt an additional blow. All year long, Toronto's bats have struggled against left-handed starting pitching. And not only is Steve's counterpart the league's top lefty, but the Royals are also the league's only squad that boasts 3 southpaws in their rotation. And the only righty they're planning to start is Brett Saberhagen, a pitcher of Steve's caliber. Here in the cauldron of the playoffs, it starts similarly with a quiet first inning for Toronto, despite George Bell producing what has to be one of the very rare extra base hits stemming from a checked swing in baseball history. Steve breezes through a 6-pitch 1-2-3 second inning, punctuated by Frank White not having a prayer as he whiffs at this nasty 0-2 slider. Just kidding. The real highlight of Steve's brief time on the mound this inning was a fan who rushed the field to sneak a little lovin' onto him.
Oh. Well, damn.
It should be known that our protagonist here, a little bit of a dreamboat. Canada loves him. Now, Dave's a family man who's not interested in the advance, but he and the Jays later asked the police not to file charges.
Anyway, the Jays then buck multiple season-long trends in providing huge early support for Steve, and doing so against.
Oh no, I'm just tired late night.
Should theoretically be the pitcher they.
It's been a very energetic stream.
They scored twice, and following another clean frame out of Steve, the first 3 Jays reach base to load the bases and drive Liebrandt out of the game in the 3rd. They all ultimately come around to score, giving Steve the unfamiliar feeling of a big 5-run cushion. Brett gets another hit in the 4th, but Steve continues to keep all the other Royals hitless, so nothing comes of it. After George Bell's leadoff single in the bottom half of the inning, he continues an incredibly audacious game of base running when he tries going 1st to 3rd on a groundout. It pays huge dividends when a throw by KC first baseman Steve Balboni completely gets away from him and sails somewhere into Guelph as Bell winds up scoring on the play. Once the 5th rolls around, the game turns into a complete pitcher's duel for 3 innings with neither Steve, who struck out 5 of the 9 batters, including a wicked backdoor slider on Brett that he called his pitch of the season, nor the Royals' Mark Gubicza allowing a hit. That ends in the 8th when Steve finally allows his first hit to a Royal other than Brett, before immediately retiring the side on the next pitch and calling it a night. 8 of the 9 starting Royals couldn't touch Steve. The only one who could recognized that this was simply par for the course, a typical Dave Stieb game. In the twilight of a 6-0 game, Kansas City tacks on a meaningless run, but Toronto cruises to a 1-0 ALCS lead thanks to the 8-inning, 8-strikeout, 3-hit, 0-run masterpiece pitched by Steve in his and his team's playoff debut.
Damn. Again, I apologize. I'm just listening at this point because There's an hour
Now,
of this,
Steve has
so
to
I'm
do what he
gonna
hates
I'm
the
gonna save
most,
my energy.
Sit around and wait. He watches a wild Game 2 from the bench. Starter Jimmy Key is knocked out early, and after several lead changes, the Jays find themselves down a run in the bottom of the 10th when they call in a favor from their fellow birds.
Out in the outfield, the Seagulls are getting very troublesome. They're lighting all over the field and getting in people's way.
A flock of seagulls descends upon the Exhibition Stadium outfield. In the wake of this stirring show of support, Al Oliver knocks in the game-winning run for the Jays.
The Seagulls, the Seagulls gave them power.
If they can use bird powers, why don't they do it every game? It's a special ability, okay? They have to charge their powers. They can't do it all the time. Don't speculate on matters you know nothing about. Anyway, having expired their mana, Doyle Alexander and the Jays fall in Game 3, thanks to a punishing performance in Kansas City from George Brett that goes home run, double, home run, single. On just 3 days rest, Steve takes the hill in Game 4.
In another duel against Lee Brandt, the first inning sees Steve very nearly blessed with a seemingly impossible second consecutive game of early run support against him when George Bell wallops an 0-1 fastball that covers about 409 and some change of the 410 feet to straightaway center in a ball that pretty much would have been gone anywhere else, but instead is just the longest possible out. Well, that stings, but the Jays' next inning starts off with a leadoff walk, and a Jesse Barfield double puts two in scoring position with none out. Most balls in play would score a run here, but 3 pitches and 2 shallow fly balls later, the runners remain where they are, and there are 2 down. After fielding a comebacker, Lee Brandt escapes from that huge jam completely unscathed. God forbid there be back-to-back games of early support for Steve, who's continued to dominate. With 2 outs in the third, he gives up his very first hit of the game on a weak chopper, and hit should be in air quotes there, as he probably did just beat Willie Wilson to the bag. That call makes even the always mild-mannered Bobby Cox in a slightly unpleasant mood. Instead of being the third out, now
Very
Steve
slightly
has to
upset.
pitch to Brett with a man on, but he remains unfazed, and a grounder to Tony Fernandez sends Game 4 into the 4th inning. Again, the baseball gods tantalize Steve with the novel concept of his team scoring for him, this time with Cliff Johnson getting a hold of one that he definitely thinks is gone, only to be yet another long out at the very back of the warning track. For the next couple innings, Steve sits down every Royal he faces, including this touchdown that he caps with a behind-the-back spike in the big football game, which draws pure venom from the crowd. In the 6th, Damaso Garcia's 1-out double has the Jays in business. Next batter...
Line drive caught by Biancalana, and Garcia...
God damn, that was a good catch.
Well, that business wasn't open very long. Finally, in his 14th inning of the ALCS, Steve gets in his very first jam after he walks leadoff hitter Lonnie Smith before the first legitimate hit Steve allows in the game puts runners on the corners with none out and the lethal George Brett due up. Following a mound visit, hands-down Pants Cox decides to intentionally walk Brett in the wake of his 11 total base gain. So let me restate the situation. With first base occupied and none out, Toronto's about to have their ace issue an intentional walk. This is unprecedented. Excluding instances when batters were representing irrelevant runs in the bottom of the 9th or extras, this is the very first no-out, first base occupied intentional walk in a playoff game. Steve then gets up 0-2 on Hal McRae before tossing 4 straight balls to walk in a run that breaks the scoreless tie, much to his dirt-tossing dismay. It can all so easily unravel now. Despite pitching another gem, he's now losing, and the bases are still juiced with none out. But like Lee Brandt in the 2nd, he masterfully works his way out of it with a pop-up on the next pitch, followed by an inning-ending double play.
That was perfectly timed. Holy shit.
When Steve next takes the mound, he quickly records 2 outs before issuing back-to-back walks. He shoots a worrisome glance at the still with hands down pants Cox, who begrudgingly removes them long enough to walk to the mound and remove Steve.
You're
who,
not
for the
making this
millionth
easy for
time
me.
in 1985, has pitched wonderfully with absolutely nothing to show for it. As he leaves the field and enters the dugout, some Royals fans say some stuff to Steve. He's got a message right back for him. Since Steve's gone from the game, that means it's cool for Toronto to score now, which they do with Lloyd Mosby's double giving Garcia a ride home and knocking Liebrandt from the game. A pop-up to Tony Fernandez puts the game to bed, and with a 3-1 series lead, moves the Toronto Blue Jays to the brink of winning the American League pennant.
In Game 5, with a chance to put the series away, Jimmy Key and the bullpen do their part, allowing just 2 runs. The Jays light up starter Danny Jackson with 8 hits, but somehow, none of them result in a run. In what must be an excruciating game for Steve to sit through, the Royals shut him out to force Game 6. The Jays have to take care of business here. If they do, they'll be able to save Steve's arm for Game 1 of the World Series and give him a little bit more rest. If they drop another game and Steve has to drag himself out there for Game 7, in his words, I don't even want to think about it. But while the Jays do get to Mark Gubazar early, they ultimately strand even more runners than they did in Game 5, leaving 9 guys on base. Steve just can't get a break.
So they have to bring him back on,
His third start
even
in
with a bad
9
arm.
days, the do-or-die Game 7 starts off with a Lonnie Smith base hit, but Steve responds beautifully by immediately inducing a double play capped by fanning the mighty George Brett on a science fiction breaking ball. During Toronto's
Good
first
Lord.
turn at the dish, Willie Upshaw bats with a man on first and gets aboard himself on a liner up the middle that smacks right into Brett Saberhagen's bare right hand, which is kind of an important appendage for him to perform his job. Perhaps now lacking some control, he then plunks Al Oliver on the leg to load the bases, where, you guessed it, they strand everyone. In the second, Pat Sheridan reaches base on a well-placed
Like,
bunt off Steve.
for those who are wondering, hitting a ball that is being thrown at about 80 to 90 miles an hour means it's gonna go very fast.
Unsurprisingly,
You don't want to catch that with your bare hand. You're gonna break a finger.
Two of the league's 3 best pitchers before Steve allows a 4th-inning, wind-aided solo dinger to Sheridan, who pulls off the unique combo of bunting with the bases empty and homering on back-to-back plate appearances. After retiring the side, the Blue Jays no longer have to contend with Saberhagen, whose hand injury forces him from the game and brings in familiar foe in the league's other top 3 pitcher, Charlie Liebrandt. The first batter he sees is George Bell, who rips a double down the left field line. With a man in scoring position and none out, Toronto again.
Yeah, baseballs are just pure, are basically just
golden
packed leather rubber, something like
keeps the
that.
deficit at 2, and the Jays again lead off the next inning with a hit, which sets the table for Garth Orge to smash what is nearly a tying pinch hit homer. But over in left field, the wind isn't nearly as impactful as in right, and it settles into Lonnie Smith's glove. They're able to at least come away with 1 thanks to Upshaw's double into right field, bringing Toronto within a single run of Kansas City as the game moves to the 6th inning. Steve's command is clearly starting to wane as he issues 2 walks and hits a batter to load the bases with 2 outs.
Oh,
Bobby
dear.
Cox is visibly concerned about the condition of Steve's arm amid his massive workload, but after substantial deliberations, ultimately chooses to leave him in to face Jim Sundberg to get just 1 more out and escape the jam.
Have a good one,
Sundberg's
Twitchy.
able to make contact on a 1-0 fastball that'd ordinarily be a routine pop fly to right, the exact spot where, instead, those heavy winds keep it sailing and plops precisely on the top of the fence before bouncing back into the field of play in what turns out to be a 3-run triple. This is an incredible relic. To this day, it remains the only bases-loaded triple ever hit by a catcher in MLB postseason history. But with an assist from Mother Nature, the rarest possible event occurred at the worst possible time.
Oh boy.
And that's the end of the season for Dave Stieb, and a few minutes later for his teammates too. Once up 3-1, they've blown it.
Damn.
Sundberg's batted ball is about half an inch away from Grand Slam. The Fates, after robbing Dave Stieb blind, toss him a nickel. I learned then what it is to die a little. He'll soon write.
That hurts more than it actually just going all the way. Yeah.
The Royals end up winning the World Series in 1985, and their 21-year-old prodigy, Brett Saberhagen, takes home the Cy Young Award. Saberhagen was a deserving winner. For the first time in years, we can't honestly claim that Stieb was robbed. But he was just about as good as Saberhagen, and it's obvious that if Stieb hadn't been staked to a mediocre 14-13 record, the voters wouldn't have sat him all the way back here at the kids' table. It certainly also can't help matters that these voters are, of course, sports writers who regard Stieb as a jerk, which he often is, at least to them. Dave Stieb has an image problem, and in the 80s there are limited avenues outside of the press in which athletes can express themselves. You could write a book. You could record a supremely embarrassing rap video. No? Book it is. In 1986, Dave Stieb went and published his autobiography before his 30th birthday. But what have we been saying about this guy? What has he demonstrated time and time again? This was a guy who signed a pro contract as a pitcher with next to no pitching experience and figured he'd just learn how to pitch in the minors. A guy who showed up a veteran teammate with way more experience because he'd internalized that he just knew better. A guy who developed his skills so staggeringly quickly that he exposed the flaws in baseball's free agency system. And consequently, a guy who bucked every convention and became perhaps the youngest player ever to demand a trade for reasons related to money. He does not care about any timetable but his own. Given the results, why the hell would he? In case you're wondering whether it's unprecedented for a 29-year-old player to publish an autobiography, yeah, it kinda is. It's tough to track every memoir ever published by a ball player, but we're satisfied with this sample of 75 others. Most players drop their book well after they retired, often decades later. And of the few who did write them while they were playing, most are superstars, household names like Reggie Jackson or Cal Ripken. The only others bold enough to publish an autobiography in their 20s were digging at some superseding theme. Jim Pearsall wrote about his battles with mental health, and Josh Hamilton about his struggles with substance abuse. Dirk Hayhurst's book was less a conventional autobiography and more a window into what the life of a minor leaguer is like. If we remove those three and focus instead on the books that are fundamentally I'm a baseball guy and this is my story, Stieb is all by himself. What I find most fascinating about this book, though, is that it could have promised one of those unique angles. I mean, we can't shut up about the fact that Stieb didn't learn how to pitch until his 20s. It's absurd. That should be the sell. That should be the entire point of the book, but neither Stieb nor his co-author, Kevin Boland, really dwell on that much. It's mentioned, yes, but at no point does he even seem the least bit surprised by his cartoonish, Henry Rowengartner-esque ascent into baseball's top echelon. He just takes it as a given. He never once questions whether he belongs or what he deserves. Although this book was written many years too early,
wish my brain would stop doing the opposite of that.
To Boland, who's possibly the only writer Stieb likes talking to, there are some pretty fun flourishes. It's a short book, and there aren't any real bombshells in here, but he has a few genuinely interesting things to say. This is a man who knows he's kind of a dick sometimes, and he really is working on it. When he's wrong, he knows he's wrong, and he owns up and apologizes for it. The Dave Stieb of the mid-'80s is trying to find the balance between allowing his competitive energy to burn him up and letting it extinguish. He wants to harvest the energy from that hum of the tens of thousands of people watching his every move, and pour it all into his arm without spilling a drop. He can't waste it. This turn of phrase is definitely Boland's, but the sentiment is Stieb's. Cast out the devils after all, and the angels just might go too. It's corny. Whatever, I like it. Most profound is his introspection into why he is the way he is. If y'all would open your scripture, please, to page 150.
Sorry, I lost mine.
Hitter. You as the hitter are the active party. When the ball smacks into play, wherever it ends up, you were the one to put it there. That is the relationship with baseball he had always had. But Stieb, the relentless self-governor, the man intent on clearing a new path to greatness that no one had ever traveled and determining his own destiny, chose a profession in which your destination is out of your control. When you throw a pitch, you may as well put it in the mail. You load it up with what you think is the correct address and the proper postage, but the second it leaves your fingertips, you are almost always a spectator. Had he become used to this powerlessness at a younger age, he surely would have accepted it far easier. That right there, that's the story of all of this. All we've seen and all that's ahead. It's the story of a train conductor in search of a steering wheel. Gems like that one didn't appear to catch the attention of any of the writers who trashed the book, though. In fact, reading the reviews, I'm not entirely convinced they actually read it. One, which used more colorful language in the newspaper than Steve ever did in his book, said it was full of complaints about his teammates, although anyone who read it would know that he told those stories in the process of apologizing and taking accountability for the way he acted. Another dismissed the title of the book, Tomorrow I'll Be Perfect, as arrogance, whereas if you actually open the book, it's pretty clearly an admission that he's not perfect, either on the mound or toward other people, and a declaration that he is trying. One reviewer seems offended by the idea that they robbed him of the Cy Young Award in 1982. After all, says another, how does he think he's so great when he's never even won 20 games in a season? This shit again. Since it apparently bears repeating, the writers in fact did, and this is inarguable, rob him of the Cy Young Award in 1982, and maybe 1981, and definitely 1983, and definitely 1984. Just one of these would massively improve a pitcher's negotiating power. Steve has lost tons in the way of future earnings because y'all don't understand numbers that have dots in them. Or, perhaps more likely, you do. But you're perfectly fine with abiding by the dumb prevailing wisdom of the time, the one that comically overemphasizes wins, because that's the logic that allows you to dismiss the accomplishments of our main man. He's often a standoffish jerk to the press, that's true. It's not nice, and there's certainly a chicken-egg debate to be had over whether the writer's ignorance toward Dave Stieb fueled his rude behavior toward them, or vice versa. But it's pretty easy to read what they write about his book and get the impression that quite a few of them have an axe to grind. They are gonna love 1986.
From the very outset of the season, it was clear that this wasn't quite the same guy who dominated the American League for over half a decade. Something was off. For instance, in 1985, Stieb allowed at least 5 earned runs in only 4 of 36 starts. But by the time he was just 10 starts into 1986, he'd already done so 7 times.
Oh, that's the name of the
series. Which also happened to be
okay.
the number that his ERA was approaching at that point in the year, while he was allowing a league-worst OPS of 960. For about the first third of the season, Stieb was turning every batter who faced him into 1999 Ken Griffey Jr. And it's pretty apparent the primary reason for his regression was because of the worsening physical condition of his right arm. He'd spent the offseason working on his changeup in anticipation of throwing it more often, and in the opinion of close observer and esteemed analyst Tony Kubek, this was likely due to the stress that his devastating slider placed on his arm. He had to reduce the frequency with which he threw it, and when he did, future teammate Joe Carter explained that it wasn't nearly as frightening as it used to be. It seems he was undoubtedly also feeling the effects of just how huge a workhorse he'd been for the Blue Jays for years, of how he'd pushed the limits in summoning every ounce of pitching magic that could possibly be extracted from a single arm, and of how he'd kept pushing himself beyond exhaustion, and plowing the unfamiliar ground of mediocrity while dealing with all sorts of persistent arm troubles that would ultimately be revealed to include bone chips in his arm. Steve's crankiness and blaming of teammates seeped back to the surface. In one instance, he went as far as to suggest his presence on the mound was directly responsible for inferior defensive performances. It was just a miserable time all around for Dave Stieb. While he'd go on to settle down a bit as the year progressed, he finished up 1986 with extremely un-Stieb-like numbers as he entered a chapter of his career in which his body just would not cooperate to allow himself to compete at the level he was always accustomed to, which was the very pinnacle of American League pitching.
Also, I don't know why it suddenly jumped forward, but we're not even halfway.
But a true adversary is beginning to emerge. Detroit Tigers starting
well, we're
pitcher
about
Jack
halfway.
Morris, aka Blackjack, aka Mount Morris, was the supersized version of Stieb in every way. Slugger Kirk Gibson once called these two the 2 biggest babies in baseball history, but everything about Morris was bigger. His height, his uniform number, his ERA, his reputation as a jerk. There's one story in particular he'll never live down. This might sound familiar. When reporter
Thank
Jennifer
you
Fry
to
approached him
thank you,
for
Meter, for the
comment in
200
locker
bits.
room, he replied with some
Next video project is going to be the
misogynist
Subnautica and Below Zero
just
video.
because he could. It's a common defense in these situations to say that he was caught in a bad moment or something. Well, it must have been the longest moment of all time, because in the days that followed, not only did he sit totally content as his teammates and even the team president retaliated against her for reporting the incident, he actively made a point to swing back around and call her a word that I'm sure you can guess. This is the most important difference between these two, who at this point in history didn't yet have major beef with one another, but did trade a few barbs here and there. Look, when all this was going down, I was 3 years old. I was not there. I do not know these people. Only a small slice of what makes up a person is what makes the papers. Steve was a little rude to the press at times, but I've tried to read everything I could find that's ever been written about him, and I find it impossible to believe that Dave Stieb would ever say anything like that.
So basically comparing, so what they were doing was
Left to right, innings pitched, up and down, ERA.
so what they were doing was
On the diamond in the 80s,
comparing
Stephen Morris
Steve
pitched more innings than
to
anyone
that
else
guy
in
who
Major
is
League
objectively
Baseball, more than
worse.
legendary figures such as Nolan Ryan, Fernando Valenzuela, and Bert Blyleven. When the pitcher of the 1980s debate is had, these are the two who are talked about. Up until 1985, Steve was the better pitcher of the decade by miles. Over slightly more innings, he maintained an ERA that was more than half a run lower. Even after his brutal 1986, Steve's body of work was clearly superior. This Z-axis represents pitching wins, of which Morris has significantly more than Steve. To get them, your teammates have to score runs for you, which again is something you have no say in. Especially not in the American League, where you as a pitcher don't even get to bat. I'm going to do my best to play devil's advocate and defend this silly stat. There is something alluring about the idea of a pitcher going out there and taking full responsibility, win or lose, like a captain going down with the ship. To value the pitching win above all else, you have to believe that nothing matters besides winning. None of that egghead stuff. That is, in some sense, admirable. But it's also totally sentimental. If it's me and my money on the line, and I can pick any pitcher I want to start game one, I'm running straight back to those cold hard numbers and going with Dave Stieb without a second thought. This framing admittedly results in some gigantic omissions who arrived a little too late in the 80s to register in the top 10 here, such as Roger Clemens, who didn't show up till 84, and Dwight Gooden, whose godlike 1985 season damn near broke the world in half. So why is this the definition we've chosen? Because it's the definition Morris himself uses when he heads to salary arbitration. And I think we know which statistic he points to.
If Morris really wants to play the Pitcher of the 80s card, fine. Let's play that card. We now know that Dave Stieb had a WAR of 38.5 after the 7 years that had been played. No other big leaguer was within 10 of that, and Morris resided outside the top 5 with a WAR barely cracking 24. We can isolate just those two for a year-by-year comparison of their progression, and the cushion is so big that even Stieb's 1986 from hell doesn't move the needle a whole lot for Morris. In terms of what could be looked at the time, 86 did bump Stieb's 80s ERA to 3.27. In other words, still an overall mark that Morris could best in a single season only once. I do not give a shit if Jack Morris had a few more wins per season.
Years earlier, when Stieb went to arbitration, his objectively correct argument that he was a statistically exceptional pitcher fell on deaf ears. He lost. Now, Morris uses caveman logic and not only wins, but racks up the single biggest arbitration win in baseball history. This is not a zero-sum type of deal, of course. The opposite, in fact. Morris driving up the price for his services is good news for all pitchers. And he ended up in arbitration with the Tigers to begin with because, when he tested the open market, there were very suspiciously no takers for the top-tier starting pitcher. This served as strong evidence pointing toward a suspicion that was later exposed as fact, that baseball's owners had been colluding against the players. But lest we leave with the impression that Jack Morris was some kind of comrade, let's briefly visit the history of the split-finger fastball. This here's a four-seam fastball, but close enough. It's a little slower than a fastball, and it drops downward as it nears the plate. But crucially, the pitcher uses the same mechanics to throw it. He looks the same, so the batter isn't tipped off and doesn't know it's coming. We can trace the lineage back to pitching instructor Fred Martin, who championed the notoriously difficult-to-master pitch, but couldn't find any takers until he found his ultimate protege, future Hall of Famer Bruce Sutter. Sutter then turned around and taught this dark art to teammate Milt Wilcox. And years later, when Wilcox ended up in Detroit, he passed on this gift to Jack Morris, whose career benefited enormously from it. This is how baseball has always grown and evolved. Wisdom passed down from one generation to another.
Have a good one, Tron.
From one teammate to another, within one big shared camaraderie. it's through these selfless little acts that any sport becomes more and more beautiful with every generation that inherits it.
And who is this?
In the early 90s, the veteran Morris is approached by a young pitcher named Pat Mahomes, who's trying to break into the bigs. Both, it should be noted, are in the Twins organization at this time, so they're on the same side. Mahomes builds his courage, goes up to Morris, and asks him if he can teach him how to throw the splitter. According to Mahomes, Morris responds, quote, "Get away from me, you little motherfucker."
Wow.
This is what Morris liked to do. Kick around people he could get away with kicking around because they were on a lesser standing. Every time you do that, though, you roll the dice. One time out of a million, one of them will be asked about any stories they want to tell after their son becomes a Super Bowl winning MVP quarterback. Tough shit there, buddy. At this time, Morris would have been about 35 years old, which is about
Karma.
33 years too old to be acting.
It can be
like this.
slow, but it
I'm
can
sure
also
he
be
wouldn't have acted
devastating.
like an asshole if he didn't want to end up as the villain in this story. For our purposes, he is Steve's counterexample. He's the kind of guy Steve might have become had he not put in the hard, unglamorous work of becoming a more mature, empathetic person. Our hero does not always succeed in this regard. He has his unflattering moments. But again, the point is, he's putting in the effort. He really is trying. And that, in itself, is a very real victory. In 1987, the Blue Jays continue their streak of winning seasons, to the point at which they've nearly broken even since Steve got here. The trouble is with Steve himself, who has another off year. Although he downplays it, the bone spur in his elbow, which causes a couple of his fingers to go numb, is pretty clearly a factor. It hurts like hell. But in true Steve fashion, he postpones surgery to the offseason and resolves to pitch through the pain instead. Amid all the things he'd seen slip out of his control, his pitch placement was the one thing he'd always held dominion over. And now, even that was beginning to waver. Maybe that's why so many begin to notice a change in him. Teammates were startled by how nice he was becoming. One writer describes him as, quote, "not an ogre," which is one of the nicest things they've ever said about him. It seems as though he's been forced to develop patience after having his abilities blunted at an alarming rate. It's either that or let it drive him crazy. This newfound patience is tested in September by Jays manager Jimmy Williams. Jimmy, Jimmy, 1M. When he was a kid, he started spelling it that way just to be different. So the man is a born tinkerer, and that's what he does with the biggest star the franchise has ever had. Near the end of the season, with Steve's ERA hanging at a totally respectable 3.98, Williams yanks away the starting role Steve has always had and reassigns him to the bullpen. Of course, it's Jimmy's decision to make. He and pitching coach Al Widmer aren't happy with his pitch selection, and he feels that with a playoff race underway, the team's better served with someone else in the rotation. Williams quickly reverses course and returns Steve to the rotation after just 2 relief appearances, but for a pitcher like Steve, even a brief demotion is a massive blow to the ego.
Oof.
Ultimately, the move is a fruitless one, as the Jays underachieve in '87 and miss the playoffs again. Early in 1988, the Sun publishes a reader poll asking whether the Blue Jays should fire Jimmy Williams. They do receive 1 no vote from local man Jimmy Williams. This is just not working out. During spring training, he's trying to make reigning league MVP George Bell his full-time designated hitter, which, given his poor fielding ability, makes sense. But Bell refuses. When the DH's turn to bat is announced to the crowd, he just sits there. Ultimately, Bell does get his way, and when he makes a critical and predictable throwing error in July, Williams immediately takes him out of the game as punishment. The two have a little bit of a meltdown in the dugout, rattling the chemistry of a team that's absolutely stacked with talent, and will now finish with a winning record for a 6th consecutive year, and just cannot put it all together. But there is good news. Dave Stieb is back.
Did he actually get the fucking surgery this time?
After postponing surgery, he finally had his bone spur removed prior to the '88
Good.
season. His numbers are approaching what they were in the first half of the decade. Once again, he can throw his slider effectively and go directly after hitters rather than making do with what he's got and pitching around him. And while he won't catch Morris in the wins department, his ERA is comparable to that of the best high-volume pitchers of the decade. All this with an entire season left to go in the '80s. His greatest adventures were still ahead of him. It's August 11th in the Bronx, and Ricky Henderson, now on the Yankees, is being a real pain in the ass. He draws a leadoff walk from Stieb and then steals second and eventually finds his way home. Stieb avoids further damage, but in the 3rd inning, Ricky's at it again, getting on base and stealing second. It's enough to drive you crazy, but this is an older, more mature Dave Stieb, who can channel his frustrations productively rather than letting him eat him up. Jimmy Williams, the consummate meddler, walks out of the dugout. Uh-oh. You do not take Dave Stieb out of this game. You just don't. Not after just 2 innings and 1 run on the board. Over the course of his career to this point, he's been almost certain to stay in the game until at least the 5th, unless he was getting lit up, which today he's not. Just 1 earned run on 3 singles and 3 walks, a totally manageable situation. The only 2 comparable occasions came in 1981 when he was taken out after a line drive damn near blew his hand off, and in 1984 due to a rain delay. Further complicating the frustration of this is that for Stieb, there's a lot of money on the line. His agreement with the Jays stipulates that if he pitches 225 innings this season, he's guaranteed a 1990 salary of $1.4 million. He was in good shape to hit that mark until recently faltering. And while this likely hasn't entered Jimmy's calculus at all, denying him even a few innings deals Stieb a huge blow. Dave Stieb has grown a lot, but maturity is never completed. It's an internal, ongoing project, and sometimes there are more important things in life than maturity. Jimmy Williams continues his walk to the mound. In his book, Stieb described the humiliating pageantry of this prolonged public declaration of his failure. There is no ceremony in any other sport that quite compares with it for sheer embarrassment. Stieb kicks the mound and verbally unloads on Williams before making his exit. Presumably as punishment, for the 2nd consecutive year, Williams demotes Stieb, his staff ace, to the bullpen. As before, Stieb only misses 1 start, but his odds of securing that salary are now doomed. Right after the game, he goes right back to that big red button. For the 2nd time in his career, Stieb requests that the Blue Jays trade him. The tenor is different from last time, though, when Stieb angrily demanded to be sent literally anyplace else. This time he's more careful with his words. He doesn't want to rake anybody over the coals. He doesn't even want to publicly criticize Jimmy Williams, as unhappy as he is with him, stressing that there's no bitterness between him and the matter is closed. Again, we see a man who is certainly not perfect, but we see the effort. Predictably, the Blue Jays elect not to trade Dave Stieb. He said at the time he made the request because he didn't have any recourse. But in one very specific, very real way, he did. If you need innings, badly, but your manager can end your day whenever he feels like it, what do? What's the one way you can seize control? What's the one game you could pitch that would render you so completely invincible for a day that no manager on earth would be brave enough to interfere?
Oh, I see where we're going here. You could also break the manager's knees, but,
with Cleveland in town, Stieb's carrying a no-hitter while facing the minimum 9 batters into the 4th inning. This is the part of the game where the prospect of a no-hitter generally starts to register on the periphery of Stieb's radar. It gets broken up on a Julio Franco ground ball that finds its way into center field, but overall Stieb is dominant en route to a complete game 4-hit shutout. Flying high and at the top of his game, Stieb readies for his next start, a rematch in Cleveland on September 24th. Hanging by just a thread in the playoff race, the Blue Jays can't afford to drop any of their final 8 games, and Stieb rises to the occasion, holding Cleveland hitless while facing the minimum 9 batters heading into the 4th inning for the 2nd consecutive timeout. Once again, he has to face Franco to lead off the 4th inning, and after a lengthy battle featuring 3 foul balls with 2 strikes, Stieb walks him.
There he goes again. Julio Franco entered the major leagues a few months before I was born, and when he played in his final professional baseball game, I was 32 years old.
God
in between,
damn.
the indestructible Franco played for 8 MLB teams in Mexico and Japan and South Korea, pretty much any place he could. Franco was a huge fan favorite wherever he went. He had this awesome batting stance, with his back elbow popped all the way up and his bat pointed directly at the pitcher. It's a stance 10-year-old me spent weeks trying to imitate until giving up because I couldn't use it to hit anything, but he sure could, in particular against Stieb. Of all the AL East hitters who saw Stieb on a regular basis, Franco was one of his toughest outs. Making it worse, Franco played second base, occupying a slot in the lineup where you'd usually expect to see a relatively harmless hitter.
That mini threat is immediately extinguished 1 pitch later on a double play to keep him facing the minimum, and after a 3-pitch strikeout of Joe Carter, Stieb carries a no-no into the 5th inning for the 11th time in his career. After retiring the next 6
So how long did
batters,
Franco
he's
play
got one
baseball?
entering
Like
the
30
7th for
years?
the
30,
4th
40
time.
years?
Yet another 1-2-3 frame leaves him just 2 innings shy of
32
permanently
years,
etching his
goddamn.
name into no-hitter lore. Steeb's 8th inning begins with second baseman Manny Lee fielding a ground ball and recording an assist for the 3rd opposing batter in a row before the very first at-bat of the game against Steeb that results in something other than a strikeout or a routine out in the field. But 3rd baseman Kelly Gruber still makes a sensational play to preserve both Steeb's no-hit bid and having faced the minimum 23 batters through 7 2/3 innings. He loses the latter when he subsequently hits Luis Medina on a full count and has to pitch to pinch hitter Terry Francona, but retiring him keeps the former alive and well as the game moves into the 9th inning.
Once again, very nearly a no-hitter game.
I suppose at this point it seems reasonable to check in on Toronto's bats this game, especially given Steeb's lengthy history of outstanding pitching all being for naught. Alrighty, that seems about right. Making it even more excruciating is that the Jays had their chances. In the 2nd inning, Jesse Barfield got thrown out at home, and in the 7th, after star first baseman Fred McGriff led off with a single and was bunted over to second, it happened again. Rick Leach lined a sharp single to the shallow outfield, and McGriff was waved home by 3rd base coach John McLaren, where, for the 2nd time, Toronto was nailed at the plate. And to pour salt on the wound, there was only 1 out, meaning had McGriff held up at 3rd, he likely would have scored on any ensuing ball in play. I guess McLarens really aren't meant for stop signs. But, much like Lloyd Christmas, the Jays do get a chance to totally redeem themselves. McGriff again leads off with a nearly identical ground ball single up the middle, is again bunted over to second, and Leach again lines a sharp, shallow single. However, this time, McLaren does throw up the stop sign. When Rob Ducey hits a fly ball to center field, McGriff's able to easily score, finally providing Steeb a single run of support.
Steeb is shooting right through the keyhole. In terms of mathematical likelihood, we're entering the territory of 5% of 1%. He may only need to face 3 more batters to lock this thing up.
God damn.
He's been here before. His failed attempts litter his career like unfinished art projects. But he just keeps getting closer.
3 outs to go, Steeb fans his 8th batter to lead off the 9th inning. 2 outs to go. Up next is longtime ex-teammate Willie Upshaw, and he hits a bouncer toward Manny Lee, who for the 4th time in the last 6 balls in playoff Steeb, smothers it up and makes the throw to first to retire the batter.
26 outs down, 1 to go. Julio Franco takes ball 1. If Dave Steeb were someone other than Dave Steeb, he might pitch around him a little bit, hope he chases something bad, and if not, the worst that happens is a walk, which keeps the no-hitter intact. But we know Dave Steeb too well for that, don't we? He goes right after Franco, putting 1 in the zone. Called strike 1. Again, called strike 2. Franco now fights to stay alive. He fouls off pitch number 4. He fouls off pitch number 5. He fouls off pitch number 6. Rolls off on pitch number 7, which goes for a ball and pulls the count to 2-2. Steeb comes after him again with a pitch on the inside corner, and once again, Franco does not get a good piece of it. It squirts ahead, but well out of the reach of Steeb, who is now the spectator he wrote about. In perfect position to rope in this dud is second baseman Manny Lee, who's playing deep. It is here when Steeb has every reason to exhale, and Lee can scoop it up, throw to first, and put this thing in the history books. It is here when...
Oh no.
This is not a bad hop. It's a fucking bloodbath. Manny Lee does every last thing his human body allows him to do, throwing himself into the sky to get his glove on it. He's powerless. Do you remember 1/10 of a second ago when this ball bounced in the infield grass right in front of him? And now falls well into the outfield grass. Base hit.
God damn it.
If you were the baseball and you hated Dave Steeb and you knew how many times he'd been denied in every theater of baseball and you wanted to wait until the precise moment you would cause him the greatest misery with 2 outs and 2 strikes in the 9th inning of a no-hitter, isn't this exactly what you would decide to do? Watch it again at normal speed. I must repeat myself. This is not merely a bad hop. Bad hops happen once in a while. In those, the ball bounces in some way the fielder doesn't expect, and it hits the lip of his glove, or at worst in the chest, and even the face. In any event, the ball is knocked down, and Lee would still have enough time to collect himself, grab the ball, and throw Franco out. This one gathered every milligram of chaos it had within itself, to produce an arc that sailed perfectly out of the reach of Lee's outstretched glove. There are two theories we can present. Jimmy Williams, who despite his differences with Steve is heartbroken for him, blames who should often be blamed for innumerable calamities, the Cleveland Browns. Just 5 nights prior, the Browns hosted the Colts on this field, and it's possible that 3 hours of football roughed up the dirt, creating optimal conditions for a bad hop. While a satisfying explanation, it doesn't seem like a likely one. Cleveland Municipal Stadium had also hosted the Jays a night earlier, meaning the grounds crew would have done maintenance several times over. More likely is that Julio Franco
also,
had
hello,
built a multi-stage
the
run.
gremlin. I think
Watch
that's...
as he slaps the ball directly against the lip of the grass in front of him. If it lands just an inch short or an inch long, it lands cleanly on either the grass or the dirt, and it probably behaves like a normal grounder. But the lip of the grass does form an angle, however small, which I believe explains the oddly dramatic bounce. That bounce off the first lip of the grass is so precise as to seem engineered. It lands directly on the second lip of the grass. And having clearly demonstrated its ability to wildly alter a ground ball's trajectory just a split second prior, it does so again. A batted Major League Baseball only caroms this cartoonishly if it smacks directly into some special topography, like the base or a pitcher's mound. Never an open space like this. Even if it didn't inflict itself upon the most important batted ball of Dave Steve's entire life to this point, I would call it the worst bad hop I have ever seen.
Good
It was a moment of such abject sorrow that even Julio Franco himself feels awful. He wants to congratulate Steve on a masterful game and shake his hand, but he knows Steve well enough to know that he doesn't want anyone within 100 miles of him tonight. The next day, Franco marvels at how untouchable Steve had been all game.
Best slider, best curveball, everything was perfect.
But then he continues and sounds like a guy who wants to disown himself of the hit entirely.
He deserves a no-hitter. I'll give him the credit. I don't think he should have broke a no-hitter like that. I was out.
If Franco could alter the history books, he would. But what remains is a no-hitter that was broken up with 2 outs and 2 strikes in the bottom of the ninth.
How's that? Even the dude who stopped the no-hitter is like, no, that it should have been a no-hitter. That should not have happened.
Thornley, who managed to track
Physics itself twisted to stop that from happening. Good lord.
He managed to find the counts of balls, strikes, and outs at the time they were broken up. According to his findings, between 1988 and 2021, pitchers not named Dave Stieb have suffered the miserable fate of losing a no-hitter with 2 outs and 2 strikes in the 9th inning exactly 10 times. Within this same span, pitchers not named Dave Stieb have started 155,303 games, meaning that this happens to human beings not named Dave Stieb once every 15,530 starts. This is how many that is. And this, the very most heartbreaking of fates, is the one that just had to belong to Dave Stieb. Compounding this, of course, is not only that bad hop from another universe, but the fact that Stieb has been in pursuit of this no-hitter for years, falling just short every time. The last one so excruciating that he seemingly had to write a whole damn book just to exorcise the demons. But you know who we haven't heard from? The man himself. The next day, Steve is asked about his immediate reaction to Franco's hit.
2 down in the 9th inning, 2 balls, 2 strikes, and Julio Franco, and he hits that ball to Manny Lee. What went through your mind there?
A younger Dave Stieb probably would have responded to this question so rudely that they wouldn't have even bothered airing it.
Well, that you can repeat.
Well, it wasn't bad.
But this is a different Dave Stieb. One who can successfully bottle up his competitive energy and use it on the mound instead of taking it out on other people. Even that night, in the immediate wake of experiencing one of the most frustrating lost no-hitters of all time, he stuck around to talk to reporters. It wasn't a bad feeling, he said. I just had to laugh. Bad luck. Oh well, thanks to his newfound hard-earned maturity, these things just don't eat him up like they used to. Rather than obsessing over what he lost, he could instead be happy with what was ultimately a fantastic complete game shutout. Times like these just can't keep him down anymore. It really was remarkable in its own right that Steve even came close this many times. The vast majority of pitchers never get this close, even once. Of course, the real heartbreak sets in once you realize how vastly unlikely it is that you'll ever get this close again. 6 days later. I swear to God, 6 days later, his very next start.
You gotta be fucking kidding me.
I still can't believe it. Folks, there's just nobody else like him. Since the Jays have faded from playoff contention, this is Steve's final start in 1988, so he's afforded the opportunity to focus solely on his quest for a no-hitter and burn whatever he's got left in the tank before resting up in the offseason. In front of him is a Baltimore lineup that, at first glance, is more imposing than the one he faced in Cleveland. In the heart of the order are power hitters and future Hall of Famers Cal Ripken Jr. and Eddie Murray. Past them, though, are a bunch of guys struggling to keep their batting average above 200, the bare minimum asked of any American League hitter. If there's any day to try for a no-hitter, it's today.
Plus, as an additional luxury, whereas Toronto hadn't gotten on the board until the 9th inning his last time out, in this one it takes the Jays all of one pitch before Tony Fernandez is standing on third base with a leadoff triple, and just 2 batters in, Kelly Gruber drives him in to give Stieb the early lead. Once again, it only takes facing the minimum 9 batters for him to make it through 3 hitless innings. Once again, the first batter of the 4th inning reaches base,
Good Lord.
this time via hit by pitch, and once again, Stieb erases that 1 pitch later on a double play. Another 4 up and 4 down, and by the middle of the 5th inning, he still hasn't allowed a hit to any of his 15 batters faced. He sits the O's down in order in the 6th, leading to his 5th career game with a no-hitter entering the 7th inning.
Goddamn.
The one-out walk represents another slight bit of turbulence, but Stieb personally smooths it out when he flashes the leather to make a nifty grab of a Cal Ripken broken bat liner for the inning-ending and minimum-preserving double play. Now just
What a
6
fucking
outs
catch,
away,
holy
the
shit.
next 6 spots in Baltimore's lineup present only one dangerous bat, Eddie Murray. The 12-year vet came into the game with a career batting average of nearly 300 and is a bigger thorn in Stieb's side than just about any other batter he's ever faced, with 18 hits and 55 at-bats, good for an even better clip of 327. But for the 3rd time today, Murray's quietly retired, nothing but smooth sailing ahead. Quickly retiring the next 2 batters puts Stieb at just 78.
Yeah, just quickly
pitches,
murdering those other 2
innings,
guys
and
off the
minimum
field.
24 batters.
Steve just casually grinding the rest of the team for XP at this point.
Considering that in most of his starts he tosses well over 100 pitches, he should even still have a decent amount of gas left in the tank, as, for the 3rd time in his career, he sits just 3 outs from his sacred no-hitter. It only requires another 3 pitches before he gets Brady Anderson and Jeff Stone to ground out, the latter of which Stieb is able to handle himself, retaining some of that precious control and not relying on the fielders behind him. 26 batters in, 26 outs recorded. And then, there was one. For the Orioles' very last chance at the dish, manager Frank Robinson summons the struggling Jim Traber off the bench to pinch hit. Traber has had but a single hit in his last 27 at-bats, in the process dragging his batting average on the season down to .216.
Well,
Jim Traber will later author what is perhaps the first ever viral baseball video. It lit up dial-up modems from coast to coast, which is why there are about 12.5 pixels in the entire video. Here, in Japan, while playing for the Kintetsu Buffaloes, Traber demonstrates the only real danger he presents to opposing pitchers. One of the many things that makes Japanese baseball so great is that when a batter charges the mound, the pitcher smartly just runs away. This pageantry ultimately ends with Traber diving unprovoked into, 7th or 8th base.
His greatest contribution of late has been in singing the previous night's national anthem, and now he steps into the batter's box as the lone impediment standing between Stieb and his crown jewel. After Franco's fateful hit came on a slider, Stieb's too scarred to go back to that well for the final out, and decides that he's gonna ride this out with his curveball. He starts him off with a couple sloppy ones to fall behind 2-0 before working the count even at 2-2. For the 2nd time in less than a week, Stieb sits 1 strike away from his no-hitter. After losing it in the most agonizing way possible, at the most agonizing moment possible,
Swear to fucking God.
start, he had to wonder if he'd ever reach this close to the summit ever again. Not only has he's done so in his very next game. It's time to bring it home. After a foul ball, Stieb offers up another curveball down and in that jams Traber up as he bloops a soft flare towards shallow right field that lands just beyond the reach of the leaping Fred McGriff.
God damn it!
For the 2nd time in about 143 hours, Dave Stieb failed to allow a single hit through 26 outs and 2 strikes of the 27 outs necessary for a no-hitter, and didn't record a no-hitter. He has no clue how Traber hit it. Traber doesn't really have a clue how Traber hit it. Orioles catcher Terry Kennedy
Much
doesn't have a
obliged,
clue
partner.
how either play that busted up the no-hitters happened. But somehow, they did. Stieb
Girl Master,
regroups
thank
to
you for
get
the 29
final
months.
out on a ground ball to third, but becoming just the second big leaguer in 44 years to pitch back-to-back one-hitters, something that to this day he's the only person to ever do while tangling with designated hitters in the opposing lineups, is of little consolation.
God.
That one, he was strong enough to laugh off. This is too much. It's far too much. Slap some postage on this thing and ship it to hell. It has happened to him twice. The most personally devastating fashion in which a game can possibly end, with your would-be first ever no-hitter shattering into pieces with 2 outs and 2 strikes in the 9th inning, has happened to him twice. A fate that has only been experienced 10 other times over the course of more than 150,000 games has happened to him 2
Poor
games in a
fucking
row.
guy.
What are the odds? Well, you remember those odds of roughly 1 in 15,000. Imagine holding a pair of dice, each with 15,000 sides, and exactly one of those 15,000 sides painted red to signify the very saddest possible outcome. You roll them both, and both of them come up red. This is what Dave Stieb has done, and the mathematical odds of doing so are 1 in 241,190,218. 241 million is a quantity that's impossible to fully conceive of, but I think we owe it to the man to try. This is 1. This is 241 million.
Holy shit.
There's no way to make the assertion I'm about to make with very much confidence, but it's possible that what Dave Stieb has just experienced is the most impossibly unlikely outcome in the entire history of organized sports that has ever come to pass. 241 million. 1.
Good
He
God.
wrote his autobiography after losing 1 no-hitter in the 9th. Just 1. He just had no idea. He still doesn't.
Two in the literal... Oh, that's the end. 2 in the literal same week. The exact same. I don't even like baseball. Ow. I don't even like baseball, and that fucking infuriates me. God himself was out to stop that man.
Then block his blind jab.
Well, okay. Mediashare whiplash. But Jesus fucking Christ. I don't think I have ever seen someone get that unlucky in my life. That's gotta sting something fierce. But, gotta move on. We got 10 videos left.
That was a 70-inch plasma screen TV. So, how can I help you?
You must be the great Alucard.
So?
Again, Helsing abridged. Gotta love it.
During the Cold War, the moon was a major target for space exploration and, military bases. So, the US Air Force commissioned a serious study into the effects of a nuclear detonation on the surface of the moon.
Because of course.
But just quoting stuff is boring, so let's conduct a very important scientific experiment with an imaginary 100 megaton thermonuclear warhead about twice as powerful as the most powerful bomb ever detonated. We'll also place a number of curious astronauts around the moon as observers. Let's push the button and slow down time. For the first few milliseconds, nothing much happens outside our weapon. Meanwhile, inside, high explosives send a shockwave to a radioactive metal core, compressing it so much that it reaches criticality and starts a nuclear fission chain reaction. The 100 million degree plasma created in this first stage sets off the second stage with atomic nuclei fusing like they do in the core of a star. Very briefly, our weapon contains one of the hottest places in the universe. And only now, barely 10 milliseconds later, does the rest of the universe find out that anything has happened, as suddenly the bomb dissolves and a flaming star of nuclear death is born. So far, so good. But everything that happens now is very different from what we're used to on Earth because of one major difference. There's no atmosphere. As the fireball shines, it releases a flash of X-rays and thermal photons, a wave of silent heat which rushes outwards in all directions. On Earth, this heat would char and burn everything within a 50-kilometer radius at least. But on the Moon, without an atmosphere and oxygen-rich air, there's no burning at all. Also, there are no things to burn. The crunchy topsoil of the Moon is made from silicate rock and metals chewed to dust by eons of meteorite impacts mixed with tiny traces of water. When heated by the explosion, X-rays from the fireball vaporize a thin cloud of rock from the lunar surface, while the unlucky dust that's inside the fireball melts into glass. Any astronauts watching the show within about 50 kilometers can expect to be fried.
Yeah, probably.
And now we begin to see one of the biggest differences between explosions in space and on Earth. On Earth, the atmosphere fights back against the plasma bubble. Its expansion is violently stopped within moments by the pressure of the atmosphere. But this is not good news. As the fireball rams the atmosphere, it produces the most destructive part of a nuclear explosion on Earth, the shockwave.
Yep.
Compressed air around the explosion rushes out faster than the speed of sound, shattering buildings and roaring so loud it ruptures organs. But on the Moon there is no shockwave. No atmosphere means nothing to impede the expanding explosion in space. On the Moon, the fireball just grows in eerie silence as there's no atmosphere to stop it or to give it a voice. This would be an amazing thing to watch from a safe distance. Unfortunately, there's hardly any safe viewing distance for a nuclear explosion on the Moon. Without an atmosphere weakening the deadly ionizing radiation that can scramble DNA, anyone close enough to get a good look will be exposed to fatal amounts of radiation. But of course, that's not all. While all of this happens, the explosion hammers against the Moon, transferring about 1/10 of the explosion energy into seismic waves, powering an intense moonquake. The Moon is much smaller than the Earth, and our astronauts will feel an inescapable violent shaking no matter where they're standing. Comparable to an earthquake of 7 on the Richter scale, this shaking could seriously damage or even level infrastructure we might have built anywhere on the Moon. Those who hid on the far side of the Moon would have no idea it was an explosion. The quaking would feel like an asteroid the size of the Great Pyramid had struck. And it's not over yet. Where our bomb explodes, the ground splatters like water when a rock strikes a pond. As the explosion pushes against the surface, it may excavate as much as 100 million cubic meters of dust and rock, forming a crater 1 kilometer across, while bedrock is pulverized to rubble. Debris is shot into the sky in every direction. Again, without an atmosphere, there's no drag to slow any of it down.
Oh boy.
Much of the debris scattered never returns to the Moon, flying off faster than escape velocity. A flurry of micrometeorites have been cast off to explore the solar system, many of which will rain down on the Earth, though few will be larger than pebbles. Any satellite, astronaut, or space station in the way, though, will have a really bad time.
Ow.
Micrometeorites are launched at many speeds and angles, allowing them to spread all over the surface of the Moon. Like bullets, they'll punch through our curious astronauts no matter where they stand. Finally, our explosion comes to an end. On Earth, the fireball rises like a hot air balloon, forming a sort of stalk. As it reaches up, cooler air is drawn in around it, rounding the top into a mushroom cloud. But on the moon, well, you know by now, no atmosphere, no mushroom. The larger the plasma gets, the cooler it becomes, and the less energy it has to make interesting or terrifying things happen. Within seconds of pulling the trigger, the bubble reddens and fades from view.
Jesus.
It would be visible from the Earth like a star flickering to life, only to fade out right away. A spark, and then nothing. As the cloud of tiny debris reaches far above the surface of the moon, it's illuminated by the sun for a few minutes, giving it an eerie beauty for anyone left to observe the spectacle. What about the moon's orbit? It's basically unchanged. Trying to move the moon with a nuke is like trying to move a truck by blowing on it. Nuclear explosions may be big, but space is bigger. Our mighty explosion just leaves another crater, one among millions. Still, anyone on the moon will continue to not enjoy themselves. The
Most
material
likely.
that ends up raining back to the moon is radioactive, and without any natural processes to wash it away or bury it, the surface of the moon will remain contaminated. Although fortunately the worst of the radiation will have decayed to a level comparable to natural levels from cosmic rays in about a year. In conclusion, we can say with confidence that while the moon itself does not care about being nuked, and will barely notice, using the moon as a nuclear test ground kind of ruins it for everyone trying to spend some time there or to build something useful. So maybe we should just not do that.
Yeah. I agree. Because despite the fact that nothing bad would seriously happen to us, like immediately from nuking the moon, you're suggesting nuking the fucking moon. It's a stupid idea to begin with.
Earlier this month, we recorded the most energetic explosion we have ever seen in the universe. It was over 2 billion light years away. Its energy has been traveling toward us for 2 billion years, since before multicellular life existed on this planet, and yet it was still powerful enough to affect the upper atmosphere of our planet. They're called gamma ray bursts, and they happen all over the universe. They happen in our galaxy, and indeed, they may have in the past hit Earth. There is no way to see them coming. They travel at the speed of light. If a gamma ray burst like this were to hit us from within our galaxy, say from 10,000 or 5,000 light years away, it would cause significant, potentially irreversible damage to our atmosphere. Luckily, they are quite rare. And also, there is nothing anyone could do about it. So, might as well not worry.
Well, that doesn't sound good. Nor does that make me not worry. Well, okay.
I'll fire the jet ski.
No, do not fire on the jet ski.
What's that? Fire on the jet ski?
I had fire on the jet ski.
Do not fire on the jet ski.
What's that? Fire on the jet ski?
Jet ski eliminated, sir.
Fucking sunk it.
They make it. They both made it.
Vesper, you have an RPG.
Oh. I shoot!
Oh. Whoa, he just fucking nailed Digby. Holy shit, son. Oh, is that another one? Ha ha ho!
Yeah, that's what I fucking thought. It's not bad.
I don't know what happened there, but that was funny.
If I took every single water molecule in this bowl and lined them all up end to end, single file, how long would that line stretch? 100 meters? A mile? 10 miles? No. This many molecules of water placed end to end would stretch a light year. And that fact is what inspired us to create the light year bottle. Free yourself from the yoke of three-dimensional space. Don't drink volume, drink length. How many light years of water can you suck? There's other unusual amounts as well. For example, filled to here, the entire bottle weighs about as much as a warm human heart still beating in your hand. Why would you want to know this kind of stuff? Well, because I know you. And you don't just live a life of action, you live a life of the mind. And you're weird.
I mean, you are incredibly correct about that last one. I mean, I'm pretending to be a robot on the internet. So, you know, I think that kind of speaks for itself. Oh yeah, bug fables. Americans wanting to use anything other than leaders. Yeah, this one looks fun. Yeah, this is, this is basically just indie Paper Mario. That's pretty cool. Is this Silk Song? Yeah, they went with a very different art style.
Yeah, we're gay. Keep reloading.
So what you're telling me is gay people have like a stat boost to their reload speed. Fascinating.
Welcome to Bottom Gear, mates.
Oh no!
Today on Bottom Gear, I drive a silent electric car, Hammond uses a fucking toilet, and James commits arson. Warning, shown budget does not exceed 23 yen. Good evening, ladies and gents. Today our sponsors are MSC Colgate B450. Check them out. Promo code revving my wife to noi. Fuck. Today we'll be reviewing one of the Kin vehicle that has about 2.3 gigahertz revving engine sound. Goes up to the, I don't know, fucking 88 millimeters for every time I find a proper job in it, basically. Oh mate, we are going to the ass. Do you want anything? I love you, posh dickhead. I've got my back. Give me Siggy in it. She's the whole bloke drafted fuck along fish and chips, bloody off. Hammond, you tiny man. Where is the Lambo Chevy? Only crashed into James' car, mate. Hammond, you sodding tech. This was my Lamborghini. Call 999. Me fucking car's being on fire, mate. Hammond, I have crack addiction. I'm dying. Jeremy, after renting force papers today, I don't know what to do next. Please help me. I can't go. Have petroleum. Tell me, I'll meet him gear. What happens when they taste exhaust fume? Okay, I'll have a whiff. Air noise. No, Jeremiah, car got bass for health. Cock. Shut up, Gems. The spade is a lot, mate. Weed. Car. Feet. Bottom. Oh my god.
Oh my fucking god. Oh, I'm okay. I'm alright, I promise.
Exactly what do you think we're going to be accomplishing today? You made the air sausage, but you didn't taste it. Why didn't you what do you think that the possible rating for air sausage could be? Use a little sausager's trick. Really, you turned a whole burrito into a sausage. That's fascinating. You know what? I will admit I had to have a change of pants after that one. Avenge your brother. Well, that's just a god-awful amount of oil. Take your Taco Bell sausage and shove it. I want to see the air that I breathe. That last one was on me. That was a sausage mistake. Third time's the charm. Against all odds, we managed to put a Sarah on this thing, so I just say we go ahead and try it. It tasted like breath of pig. 0 out of 5.
Bop, 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 bop.
Well, there you go. I guess. And last one for today.
I ain't
a musket for home defense, since that's what the founding fathers intended. 4 ruffians break into my house, the devil, as I grab my powdered wig and Kentucky rifle, blow a golf ball-sized hole through the first man, he's dead on the spot. Draw my pistol on the second man, misses him entirely because it's smoothbore and nails the neighbor's dog. I have to resort to the cannon mounted at the top of the stairs, loaded with grape shot. Tally-ho, lad! Grape shot shreds 2 men in the blast. The sound and extra shrapnel set off car alarms. Fix bayonets and charge the last terrified rapscallion. Bleeds out, waiting on the police to arrive, since triangular bayonet wounds are impossible to stitch up. Ah, just as the founding fathers intended.
I fucking love that video. Although, it's not the video I was thinking of. It's one where they actually, like, it's one where they did, like, animated, like, PNGs and pictures and stuff. But that's also very good. Oh, my fucking God. In any case, that is all for today, folks. What a day. What a goddamn day. I am tired. It has been a week. But, oh God. Ugh, just had to stretch. Ugh. New videos done and published. Next one will be started very soon. And until then, I'm just gonna take it easy. But thank you all very much for watching. That was a lot of fun, as it always is. And I'm just feeling pretty alright right now. But for the moment, ow, thanks. As I was going to say, I'm feeling pretty alright, but I need a nap. So I will talk to you all later. See you on Monday. Have a great weekend. Love you all. And I appreciate everybody sticking around and showing support and watching the new stuff and all that. Either way, I'll see you all on Monday. Good night.